Welcome to the fantasy audiobook, Doomsday Catastrophe. Fortunately, I have a family prosperity system. Chapter 1. Standing by the window on the 24th floor of the apartment, I had a panoramic view of the scene downstairs. Jang Lin felt a chill running through his body. Zombies. The subway entrances that used to be crowded with people are now occupied by zombies. They are agile, have keen senses, and are terrifyingly contagious. Once they are touched by them, even if they are not eaten clean, they will be infected and turn into zombies. Zombies. I just got a golden finger when riding a horse. He couldn't help but curse. As a hard-working office worker who was born as an orphan, he couldn't afford a car or a house, and he couldn't collect enough gifts. His girlfriend, whom he had been dating for more than a year, was forced to break up by her mother. But this morning, Jang Lin just woke up and heard a pleasant sound. The family prosperity system was successfully bound. Then there was a brief introduction from Balabala, which roughly meant that he needed to develop his family, marry a wife and have children. The more prosperous the family was, the richer the rewards the system would give. Jang Lin was so excited that he almost slapped himself twice. Sure enough, he is the protagonist's fate. Born as an orphan, his girlfriend broke up. These are all prerequisites. Once you achieve them, the golden finger will arrive. However, before Jang Lin could complete the first task of marrying a wife in the system, he was almost killed by a zombie when he opened the door in the morning. Fortunately, he reacted quickly and closed the door in time, blocking the zombies from outside. The two girls who shared the apartment with him also heard the noise, and together they brought the refrigerator and wardrobe over, blocked the door, and then stood at the window with confidence. Observe the situation downstairs. It didn't matter at this glance. Jang Lin found that wherever he looked, there were basically no living people, only zombies wandering around. Occasionally, there are those living people who dare to come out without knowing what they think, and they basically become food for zombies. After a while, these zombies will stand up again, with not much meat hanging on the skeletons, and become a member of the zombie army. Jang Lin really wants to cry but has no tears. This horse riding is so unlucky. Brother Lin, how is the situation outside? The girl who shared the apartment came over. She was the younger sister. She was still in school. She was scared by zombies just now. She still hadn't recovered yet, and her face was pale. Xiao Wu, you can see for yourself. Jang Lin gave up his position and let her see for herself. The girl came over and stood at the window to look down. After just one glance, she immediately took 2 steps back in fright, her chest rising and falling sharply. How could this happen? At this time, my sister also walked out of the room. I looked at the other side and the situation was the same. They were all zombies. Both sisters looked at Jang Lin, as if asking him what to do. Jang Lin's roommates are a pair of sisters. The elder sister is in Qingge and the younger sister is in Qingwu. The younger sister goes to school at a nearby music conservatory. The older sister works nearby and is a colleague of Jang Lin. The house was rented by them. It was a 2-bedroom apartment, and the 2 sisters had 1 room each. After renting for a while, they felt that the rent was too stressful. It happened that their sister heard that Jang Lin was looking for a house, so she simply vacated 1 room for Jang Lin. Lin came over to share the rent, and she lived with her sister. Jang Lin didn't communicate much with them on weekdays, because they were too beautiful, and his sisters were all beauties. Jang Lin knew that it was impossible to be friends with them, and they had no common language to be friends with, so he simply stopped communicating. And they, on weekdays, go to school and go to work, surrounded by a group of men chasing after them, and they have nothing to say to Jang Lin. But it's different now. There are all zombies outside the door. These 2 weak women seem to regard Jang Lin as their backbone. There is no good way. We can't get out now. Jang Lin shook his head slightly. The only thing we can do is to stay in the room and wait for rescue. Is there really going to be a rescue in this situation? And Qingwu was young and had already lost her mind. Her fair cheeks were now even more bloodless, and her expression was hopeless and dull. The situation of my sister and Qingge is not much better. She stood by the window on the 24th floor and looked out. All of them were zombies. It was unclear how many living people were nearby. Jang Lin was not as panicked as before. He suddenly realized a problem. The system says that rewards will be given after you get a wife and have children. There is nothing wrong with that, but before you get a wife and have children, the system is useless. According to the situation before the end of the world, his monthly salary is 5,500 yuan. After taking away all kinds of expenses such as food, clothing, housing and transportation, he will only have a little over 1,000 yuan left. How can he afford a wife in this year of the monkey? On the contrary, nowadays, if the apocalypse really comes and order is lost, wouldn't it be much easier to marry a wife? This kind of scene has been depicted in movies, TV series and apocalyptic novels. After the apocalypse, no betrothal gifts, hardware, or garages are needed. A piece of bread can be exchanged for a wife. In this way, the end of the world will be beneficial to Jang Lin. Jang Lin glanced at the two sisters in Liushanwuju. He felt that he was really lucky. They were the two sisters who shared the house. If he did it well, he could get 2 rewards from the system without leaving the house. Perhaps, this is the capital to survive in the apocalypse. After appeasing the sisters, Jang Lin asked them to go back to their rooms and wait for rescue. He also returned to his room and began to count the food reserves. He usually has the habit of stocking up on things, which is probably some whole wheat bread, oatmeal, and ready-to-eat chicken breasts. Because he has a small belly due to long-term sitting, he wants to reduce the fat on his belly, so he stocked up on these low-fat meal replacement foods. After some light tapping, Jang Lin estimated that if you eat these things sparingly, you can probably last 4 or 5 days. System, what is the determination of marrying a wife? Jang Lin lay on the bed, saving money, and communicated with the system in his mind. Is it necessary to hold a wedding and obtain a certificate? If the conditions for marrying a wife are these, it will be really difficult for him. But fortunately, the system's answer made him sigh in relief. All it takes is that the woman sincerely wants to be with the host and is willing to give birth to a child for the host. That's good. The other side. Compared with Jang Lin's situation, the family sisters' situation is not that good. They don't have the habit of hoarding food. Especially in Qingwu, who studies music and art, has certain requirements for her body shape and needs to control her weight. Not to mention stocking up on food, she doesn't usually eat much. Normally, there is nothing wrong with this. She does maintain a good figure, with almost no fat on her body, and her skin is tight and delicate. Sometimes she wears yoga clothes and does yoga in the living room. At that time, Jang Lin wouldn't dare to look at her when she passed by. They all had to bend their backs and go back to the house. Although Chingay has no habit of losing weight, he is busy with work on weekdays and basically does not eat at home. At most, there are only a few fruit cucumbers in the house, but how long can that food be used? I was in a panic just now, but I didn't expect this. At this time, I calmed down and the two of them gathered together in the room. How can we survive until rescue arrives when we don't even have any food? The two sisters looked at each other. How can you wait until rescue arrives if you have nothing to eat? There are zombies outside now. No matter how you look at it, rescue can't be here in a short time. Moreover, there is no telling whether there will be rescue. For a moment, both of them were stunned. Are you going to go out to find food? And Qingwu's face turned pale, and her legs felt weak when she thought about the terrifying zombies outside. Impossible. And Qingay shook his head. There are zombies in the corridor outside the door. If the two of us go out, we will definitely die. Then what should I do? And Qingwu often loses weight and understands the feeling of hunger best. It can often be to keep in shape, and she also eats various low-fat foods. Although she is hungry, she feels very slight and her body is not malnourished. But if we really run out of food, she couldn't imagine the consequences. And Qingay was a little panicked at this time. She also realized the seriousness of the problem. After hesitating for a while, she said, I remember that there is some food in the refrigerator, which should last for a while. But those things all belong to Brother Lin. And Qingwu said, Jang Lin will occasionally cook for himself. There are some vegetables and pork in the refrigerator, but not much. If it is eaten by one person, it can eat 3 meals. If there are 3 people, let's ask him later and see if he is willing to give us a little bit. Of course I do. By afternoon, the 3 people had been waiting in the room for nearly 10 hours. There was no rescue, only the roar of zombies outside the door and the harsh sound of sharp nails scratching the wall. None of the 3 had breakfast. It was only 7 or 8 in the morning when the zombies were discovered. 2 of the 3 people were office workers and 1 was a student party member. They either skipped breakfast or were selling random snacks at roadside stalls. Although at the end of the day, the 3 of them basically lay in bed without any consumption, after nearly 10 hours, they all reached their limit. Modern people have never been hungry, and their tolerance for hunger is not high. In the room, the 2 sisters hesitated for a long time before finally mustering up the courage to knock on Giang Lin's door and talk about the food in the refrigerator. They thought about many consequences and felt that the most likely one was that Giang Lin would not give it to them at all. After all, everyone knew that food was the most important thing in the last days. But they didn't expect that Giang Lin would agree so happily. "Thank you, Brother Lin. Thank you, Giang Lin." Both sisters were very moved. Especially my sister, who was in tears, probably already thinking that Giang Lin was a good person. "I'm going to cook. You go back and wait. I'll call you when it's ready." Giang Lin smiled gently and took over all the cooking errands. "Why are you so embarrassed? Let's help you," and Chingay said quickly. "She has already entered the society and has more ideas. Giang Lin has given them food. If they still sit back and enjoy the gains, it would be a bit disrespectful." Giang Lin smiled and said, "You don't usually cook, how can you help? Go back." Seeing his serious attitude, I thought about it again and realized that my 2 sisters were indeed very shy. Going to the kitchen might waste food. So, the 2 sisters went back with moved expressions on their faces. After returning, and Chingay couldn't help but said to her sister, "I didn't get along with Giang Lin much before. I didn't expect him to be so nice." "Yes," and Qingwu smiled. In the kitchen, Giang Lin took out some vegetables and a piece of meat, fried 2 vegetables casually, and cooked a pot of rice. If this thing were left alone, he would be able to eliminate it himself. But now is the end of the world, so we can only eat sparingly. After putting all the food on the table, Giang Lin knocked on the sisters' door and called them out to eat. When the 2 sisters came out and saw that there was only this little thing, they were both surprised. "You know, there are 3 people who need to eat. Is that all?" And Chingay couldn't help but ask. Giang Lin said, "There is only so much in the refrigerator. If you don't eat sparingly, it will be gone in a day. The current situation is special. You should overcome it. Hey, Brother Lin, you were right, this is the only way." And Qingwu sighed. And Chingay also nodded helplessly. "Giang Lin, you still arranged it properly." The 3 of them had been renting together for several months, and this was the first time they ate at the same dining table. Facing the 2 beauties, Giang Lin didn't look much at them and just ate his meal silently. After finishing eating, he put his chopsticks on the bowl and said, "Have you also read online? Although there are zombies outside, the internet, water and electricity are not cut off. At present, everyone can still communicate with each other on the internet." Giang Lin also read a lot of news, and even went abroad to look over the wall. After learning about it, he knew that there were zombies not only in his own city, but in the whole world. "The situation is serious. We watched it too." And Chingay put on light makeup in the morning, and her flawless face looked fairer and more refined, but at this time, she looked a little haggard. "Many people in our company group have not spoken for a day. I don't know if he turned into a zombie." And Qingwu also said, "The same goes for our classmates. Fortunately, I live here. I heard from my classmates in the dormitory that basically as long as one person in the dormitory turns into a zombie, the rest of the people will turn into zombies. Horrible. Will there really be a rescue?" And Chingay asked with some confusion. "I see that on those official accounts, apart from the information that tells us to stay at home and wait for the rescue, there is no disclosure of any information about the rescue at all." Giang Lin felt in his heart that rescue might not be able to come. Because the real zombies now are completely different from the slow-moving and dull zombies in movies. "Don't think so much." Giang Lin comforted them. "We have no other way now, right? We can only wait." Giang Lin didn't want to give them hope and then make them despair. He's not that perverted. He just wants to get the rewards from the system and survive in the apocalypse. The 2 sisters were no longer interested in talking. There was only so much food left in the refrigerator. There were zombies outside and they couldn't get out. There was no hope of rescue. What can we do about it? After a while, the 2 sisters also finished their meal. The plates were clean, and there was not a grain of rice left in the bowl. On the first day of the apocalypse, they had begun to adapt. Giang Lin felt very relieved. In movies and TV shows, there are always fools who can't recognize the facts, but the protagonist of The Holy Mother of Evil refused to kill them. In the end, they were killed and fell into danger. If it weren't for the protagonist's halo to protect him, he would not have known it. How many times have I died? He wanted to complete the system's mission, but he definitely didn't want to live in the apocalypse with two idiots. The two sisters went to the kitchen to wash dishes. Giang Lin found all the containers he could find at home to collect water. No one knew how many days the tap water would last, so he had to prepare it first. After washing the pots and dishes, the two sisters also came to help. The three of them were busy working until dark, basically using all the containers at home that could be used to collect water. Then they go back to their respective homes and lie down to reduce consumption. Days like this passed day by day, and the fourth day came in a blink of an eye. The food in the refrigerator was all used up on the third day, and on the fourth day, the two sisters and Qingge and Qingwu were so hungry that stars appeared in their eyes. Giang Lin, on the other hand, was eating meal replacement food in the room. This food did not fill his stomach and made him feel weak, but at least he could maintain good physical strength. He did not share the food in the room with the family sisters. He is not the Holy Mother. Giang Lin was already very kind to give them the food in the refrigerator. If it were a cruel person, he would not give it to them at all. After all, the food belongs to Giang Lin. Moreover, he is a grown man, and his fighting ability is obviously not comparable to that of two women. On the third day, the water and electricity at home were cut off. Obviously there are people on the internet who are popularizing science, saying that the water plant can maintain water supply for a month without any operation, but the water supply was cut off after only 3 days. Fortunately, Giang Lin stocked water in advance, so there will be no shortage of water for the time being. But the phone is running out of battery, which is a big problem. The signal is not cut off, and I can still get some information from the internet using data. But when my phone runs out of battery, I still can't access the internet. In the past 4 days, the internet has been a mess. Some people have become desperate and started to do some crazy things, even taking videos and posting them online. Giang Lin has seen many tragedies in the past few days. There are still people who are hopeful and waiting for help to arrive. Some people even started going out to hunt zombies. They banded together and selected lone zombies to attack. With the help of weapons, they actually killed many zombies. They posted zombie killing strategies online and encouraged everyone to kill zombies together and restore order as soon as possible. But most people are still like Giang Lin and dare not go out at all. After all, he was not familiar with the neighbors, so how dare he go out to kill zombies with them? Moreover, he had another way, which was to wait for system rewards. Fortunately, this is the end of the world, and fortunately there are two sisters next door. Giang Lin felt that the time had come for him to complete his task. Next door, sister, I feel like I'm going to die. And Qingwu felt a burning hunger in her belly, which made her curl up on the bed, almost unable to move. After long-term weight loss, her stomach was originally unhealthy. In the first 3 days, although I had something to eat, I was not full at all. Today is the 4th day, and I only drank some water. And Qingge didn't say anything. She was hungrier than her sister. In the past 3 days, she deliberately let her sister eat more. She didn't have the energy to speak now. In the past few days, in addition to getting information online, they would just lie by the window and look outside. After many people ran out of food, they could only risk going outside to look for food, but the result. From what they saw, it would be good if 1 out of 10 people could return alive. And Qingge thought, it would be great if Giang Lin could also go down to look for food. But then she thought about it again, and she smiled bitterly. If someone risked his life to find food, why should he give it to herself and her sister? Seeing his sister's stomachache from hunger, and Qingge felt that she couldn't wait any longer. Xiao Wu, just keep holding on. And Qingge endured his weakness and stood up, touched his sister's hair, and then walked out of the room resolutely. Sister, and Qingwu called out worriedly, but she was too weak, and Qingge, whose voice was so small, couldn't hear her at all. Bang bang. and Chingay knocked on Giong Lin's door. Giong Lin smiled in the room. He had been waiting. The system required his wife to marry him voluntarily, and it was not easy for him to force the unfamily sisters with food. Moreover, he was not such a person in the first place. Now that Chingay came to the door, everything is easier to handle. Giong Lin opened the door. Seeing that Giong Lin did not look very weak, and Chingay seemed to understand something, but she did not ask for food, but said, "Giong Lin, let's go out to find food together." And Chingay is very strong. Giong Lin knew this. They both belong to the same company and are in the sales business. And Chingay often takes the top spot in sales and earns money to support himself and his sister. It is said that her father was a gambler who owed a lot of money and often asked her for money. And Giong Lin has often heard that customers often have special thoughts about her, and she would rather not have this customer than use herself as a bargaining chip. If such a woman were to force her directly with food, even if she would commit herself to Giong Lin, she would not be willing to do so, and the system task would not be completed. Are you kidding? If you are so weak, aren't you looking for death if you go out? Giong Lin was not surprised by her words. I'm waiting to die at home. Xiao Wu can't stand it anymore. She has a stomachache. And Chingay said silently, "If you don't want to go, just help me move the things blocking the door and I'll go out by myself." Giong Lin looked at her. She is about 1.65 meters tall, not fat, and graceful. Like her sister, she has fair and delicate skin, and her facial features are very delicate. If she wears makeup on weekdays, she looks like an elite working woman. Some people say she is a female CEO, let her. But now, her face is haggard and her skin is a little dull, but her face is full of determination. "You know I still have some food here, right?" Giong Lin said calmly. And Chingay nodded. "I know, but since you didn't take it out, it means you don't want to give it to us. You gave us the food in the refrigerator before, which was interesting enough, and I won't be greedy." Giong Lin couldn't help but nod. This is a normal person. And Chingay looked at Giong Lin, feeling a little uneasy. She was so weak that she couldn't even move the things blocking the door. If Giong Lin didn't help her, she wouldn't be able to get out. She also felt a little regretful, wishing she had gone out 2 days ago. But think about it in your heart, as long as there is food, who would risk their lives to go out? But now, with her physical condition, she would die if she went out. But for her sister, she had no other choice. Giong Lin felt that the time was ripe and said, "I can give you food. I have some left here. The 3 of us can eat it and we can still hold on for a day or 2. With that said, he took out the rest of the things. When Chingay saw the food, she couldn't help but swallow her saliva. She forced herself to look away and asked, "What's the price?" "If you eat something before going out, your chances of survival will be greater." Giong Lin did not answer, but added, "I can also take the initiative to go out to find food, and then share it with you and your sister. Believe me, I will definitely be able to feed you too." "Why?" she asked again. Giong Lin looked into her eyes and said seriously, "I like you." This is a lie. Giong Lin has a slight affection for her at most. After all, who doesn't love a beautiful woman? However, in the end of the world, he will not work hard to support 2 losers just for a little liking. Or for system rewards. If you say this, I guess she can accept it easily and be more willing. And Chingay was stared at by Giong Lin seriously. She was flustered. And Chingay thought about many possibilities. She felt that the most likely possibility was that Giong Lin threatened her with food and made some excessive demands. In fact, she was just thinking about whether she should agree. After all, my sister is very uncomfortable. As for myself, if I don't eat something, I will probably die if I go out. For the lives of myself and my sister, I have to pay a little, maybe, grit my teeth. But she didn't expect that Giong Lin would say this. Sometimes it's like this, but if you put it another way, it feels completely different. Giong Lin continued, "I don't mean to force you when I say this. I, Giong Lin, also have a personality. I just want you to be with me willingly." How hypocritical. Giong Lin himself felt like he was about to vomit. But it's very helpless. This is how you have to deal with a woman like Chingay. If this doesn't work, you can only try to attack the sister next door. But I guess with Chingay here, the success rate is not high, so just I can take risks and meet other people. But it's obvious that Chingay is following this trick. She recalled her previous impression of Jang Lin. He was a person who had a harmonious relationship with most of his colleagues. He was honest, hardworking, and of good conduct. If he had not had such a reputation, she would not have dared to let Jang Lin live in a room with her sisters. After the apocalypse, Jang Lin gave them food without giving them anything in return, and she became more fond of Jang Lin. Although he hid some of it himself, and Chingay believed that this was human nature. But now, Jang Lin is actually willing to share food with him, and is willing to take risks to find food to feed himself and his sister. Does he really like me? Then why didn't you say it before? And Chingay felt a little confused. Jang Lin was a little anxious waiting. Can you please tell me something? If you can't do it, I'll ask your sister. If your sister can't do it either, I'll take the remaining food and go out to find someone else. And Chingay's brain gradually became clearer. She even felt that, just like what was shown on TV, even if she refused, Jang Lin would give her food and go out to find food to feed her and her sister. After all, that's how it's done on TV. So she was very touched, but her character didn't want to do this. She asked people to share food with her for no reason, and also asked people to risk their lives to find food for herself and her sister. She couldn't do such a thing. In this case, Chingay, Jang Lin urged, and Chingay immediately made up his mind. His face turned red, he lowered his head slightly and said, I actually like you quite a bit. You should have told me earlier. She thought to herself that Jang Lin probably didn't dare to confess to her because of her low self-esteem. She couldn't say that she didn't like him at all. It would be too embarrassing for him, so she told a lie. Jang Lin was a little confused. This girl actually likes me. He had always been ordinary before. As for Chingay, she is beautiful and earns more money. But Jang Lin didn't think much about it and asked immediately, Chingay, are you willing to be my wife? And Ching sings like a mosquito, I do. Jang Lin didn't know if she was sincere, and was waiting for feedback from the system. Dear host, you have married your first wife and your family has developed. You have received the following rewards. A 212 square meter flat floor within the second ring road of Chengdu. RMB cash reward of 10 million yuan. A Rolls-Royce Phantom mobility scooter. ? What kind of reward is this horse riding? Jang Lin almost couldn't hold back and cursed directly. After waiting for so many days, giving these things will be useful in the end of the world. Beep. System error. If a change in the host environment is detected, should the reward system be changed? Jang Lin was stunned for a moment, and immediately said silently in his heart, replace. If this horse is not replaced, the system will reward some RMB, real estate, cars, etc., which will be of no use after the apocalypse. Fortunately, the system is very smart. The replacement of the reward system is completed. You married your first wife and received the following rewards. Type 92 semi-automatic pistol, unlimited bullet version, *1. Genetic modification potion, overall improvement 3 times, *1. Space ring, 100 cubic meters, *1. These are good. Jang Lin smiled with satisfaction. These things are suitable for survival in the apocalypse. Firearms can ensure that he has combat effectiveness, and this is the unlimited bullet version, so there is no need to worry about ammunition. Genetically modified medicine can give him a physique that is 3 times higher than that of ordinary people. This is more important than firearms. After all, firearms are external forces, and a super high physique can allow him to survive in the apocalypse. The last space ring is more important. He has already figured out how to use it. Once this thing is used, he basically won't worry about food. Why are you so stunned? And Chingay touched Jang Lin with her shoulder. She felt that Jang Lin was so surprised. She was stunned for a long time and suddenly grinned. Doesn't this mean he really likes her? I'll take out all the food for you and your sister. Jang Lin rummaged under the bed, took out all the food, and handed it to Chingay. Go ahead, you eat first, and then I'll go outside to find it after you finish. Quote. In his excitement, Jang Lin didn't even realize that his current tone was like a licking dog. The main reason is that the system's rewards are too generous and suitable for the current environment. With the 3 rewards from the system, he is fully confident to find food and survive in a city full of zombies. I don't care about this little food. I'll just take what Xiao Wu and I ate today, and leave the rest here for you. And Chingay took a few European buns and a bag of chicken breasts, and hurried back to the room. Giang Lin, on the other hand, stood at the door, stroking his chin and thinking. There is a younger sister next door. If I can get this reward from her, I will be even more at home in the apocalypse. However, this should be more difficult, and Chingay would not let him succeed. Forget it, let's get Chingay pregnant as soon as possible, so that we can get another reward. Giang Lin turned back to the room and locked the door. Then, he took out 3 rewards from the system. The first is the Type 92 pistol. This gun is a standard pistol. Being a standard pistol means that the performance of this gun is very good. He picked it up and looked at it. He felt that it should not be difficult to use, but he would have to practice his marksmanship well. Next was the potion. He picked it up and stabbed it directly into his arm. Feel nothing, nor was he covered in sticky black mud after having his bones removed and his marrow removed. There was just a lot of sweating, and along with the crackling of the bones, the loose fat changed drastically and turned into strong muscles. And then it's over. Giang Lin moved his body, jumped slightly, and touched the ceiling. You know, the height of the floor here is close to 3 meters. He is 1.83 meters tall. He could not touch the ceiling even if he tried his best. Then he lifted some heavy objects, and he found that his strength was much stronger, and even his vision and hearing were much sharper than before. I just don't know, it's not as good as the zombies outside. Finally, there is the space ring. This is a silver metal ring set with a small transparent crystal. After putting the ring on his hand, Giang Lin could feel a huge space as long as he thought about it. 100 cubic meters, in total, is a little smaller than the apartment where Giang Lin lives now. It doesn't look big, but if it only refers to storing food, it can store a lot. Giang Lin couldn't wait to go downstairs and raid the supermarket now. But it was getting late at this time, and it was too dangerous to go downstairs, so Giang Lin could only be patient. He took out his mobile phone and checked the battery. There was still 4%. It would automatically shut down soon. He sent an WeChat message to Chingay. Come to my place and rest later. After sending it, the phone ran out of power and shut down automatically. Giang Lin couldn't see Chingay's reply. But it doesn't matter. Since she passed the system verification and sincerely wants to marry Giang Lin, she shouldn't refuse. Next room. Xiao Wu, eat quickly. Chingay returned to the room with the food he brought from Giang Lin. She first tore open the package and fed the chicken breast to Chingwu, then took a glass of water and handed it to Chingwu's mouth. Chingwu had been hungry for a long time. When she saw something to eat, she ate quickly. However, she choked because she ate too much. She quickly drank water and drank it down. Chingay didn't have the nerve to take too much, so Chingwu ate like crazy and ate most of it. Finally, she regained some energy, and then she reacted and asked in surprise, Sister, where do you get all this food from? It's your brother Lin's. Chingay didn't say how he got there. He also hid food. Chingwu was a little angry. We are almost starving to death, and he actually hid food. It was originally his. Chingay touched her hair. Besides, didn't he give it to us? Chingwu fell silent. Although Giang Lin hid the food, he took it out in the end and saved her life. She was not qualified to blame Giang Lin, but wanted to thank Giang Lin for saving her life. Sister, you haven't eaten yet, have you? Chingwu looked at the remaining food, quickly picked it up, tore open the package and fed it to her sister. Although Chingay was very hungry, he did not gobble it up. Instead, he tore it into small pieces and ate it bite by bite. After eating, my phone just rang. Chingay picked it up and looked at it, and his face immediately turned red. Giang Lin asked her to go over and rest. She has been busy making money, supporting her sister, and paying off her father's debts over the years. She has no intention of falling in love, but it doesn't mean that she doesn't understand what Giang Lin means. Chingay replied and said he would be over in a while. But she didn't know that Giang Lin's phone had been turned off over there, and he didn't even see it. Then, Chingay talked to her sister for a while, specifically saying that Giang Lin still had food there and could survive for a day or two. After she recovered a little tomorrow, she would go downstairs with Giang Lin to look for new food. We can't just sit back and have nothing. And Qingwu danced in the dark night, holding her little face in her hands, and said, but, isn't that dangerous? And Qingge said, there is no way, we can't starve to death, right? And Qingwu wanted to say that she was going with her sister, but she knew that her sister would not agree. After hesitating several times, she finally did not speak. It was completely dark outside at this time, and there was no light inside the house due to the power outage. And Qingge suddenly felt a little nervous, and his heart was beating wildly. Because she felt it was time for her to pass. She covered Qingwu with a quilt, touched her face, and said, you can rest by yourself tonight. And Qingwu was surprised. What about you? In the dark night, no one could see that Qingge's cheeks had turned pink. She bit her lower lip and uttered a few words from the depths of her throat, I'll go next door. Next door, and Qingwu was stunned for a moment, seemed to understand something, and said angrily, sister, did you trade your body for this food? And Qingge didn't know how to answer. I knew Giang Lin was not a good person, sister, he forced you to do so, right? And Qingwu couldn't help but cry, it's all my fault, you are like this because of me. And Qingge hugged her quickly and explained, no, Giang Lin didn't force me. He has always liked me, but he never dared to confess. He will risk his life to find food in the future because he is afraid of dying outside. He confessed to me, even if I didn't agree, he would still give us food. Good guy, Giang Lin didn't even know he was so infatuated. But after thinking about it for a while, and Qingge thought that this was the correct answer. After some consolation and saying good things about Giang Lin, and Qingge comforted his sister, lowered his head and kissed her gently on the cheek, and she got up and went to another room. And Qingwu hid under the quilt and suddenly felt a little confused. It seems that she has become an outsider. I thought you weren't coming. Giang Lin said after hearing the sound of the door opening. I replied to you, didn't you read it? And Qingge groped in the dark and walked to the bed. Giang Lin said, the phone is out of battery. She stood beside the bed, somewhat at a loss. Giang Lin took the initiative to lift a corner of the quilt and pulled her over. There are two types of system rewards. Take a wife. Give birth to children. The first reward has been obtained, and now it is time to work hard to obtain the second reward. And Qingge just lay next to Giang Lin. Although the room was pitch dark with no light, she still felt very shy and hid under the quilt and took off her clothes one by one. Giang Lin hugged her and turned over to get on the horse. And Qingge suddenly put his hands on his chest, exerting slight pressure, as if to refuse, we have to go down to look for food tomorrow. Will this affect our condition? At this time, Giang Lin felt that the blood was already surging in his head, and he quickly said, don't worry, I am in good health and it will not be affected. I mean me. And Qingge felt the temperature on his palms and the gradually accelerating heartbeat, and said softly, I have never been in love before. Giang Lin was really surprised. Although he knew that Qingge would not betray herself for money, he did not expect that a beauty like Qingge, in her 20s, had never been in love once. And Qingge continued, it's too dangerous for you to go out to find food alone. I'll go with you and wait until it stabilizes before I give it to you, okay? She felt a little grudge in her heart. After all, she wasn't very familiar with Giang Lin before, but she didn't resist it very much. The reason why I refused was really for the sake of tomorrow. She wanted to help Giang Lin. You don't need to go. Giang Lin smiled confidently. I can do it myself. Don't worry, I can support you sisters. And Qingge still said, I have to help you, I can't hold you back. In order to give her confidence, Giang Lin grabbed one of her hands and touched it under his pillow. He lowered his head and said in her ear, touch and see what this is. Following his movements, and Qingge touched something under the pillow. It was a cold metal, it seemed to be a tube, with a handle underneath. This is gun, and Qingge's eyes suddenly widened in the dark night, and his breathing became rapid. She never thought that Giang Lin actually had a gun. Now she was relieved. So, and Qingge closed his eyes, tried to relax, and whispered, then, you do it. A stormy night. Giang Lin, who has 3 times the physical fitness of ordinary people, if he hadn't forcibly controlled his desires, and Qingge might have died in bed. In the early morning, while Chingay was still sleeping, Jang Lin had already woken up. He sat up and looked down, and saw that the face of the beauty next to him was full of exhaustion. However, compared with the haggard appearance yesterday, today it seemed that although she was tired, she also felt radiant. The world is impermanent. Jang Lin gently left the bed, dressed and washed, sighing in his heart. He once didn't dare to have any thoughts about Chingay, but at this time, this woman with outstanding appearance and strong ability has already it belongs to him. Taking out his pistol, receiving it in the space ring, Jang Lin walked out of the bedroom. There wasn't much food left at home, so he had to go outside to look for food. After all, now is not the time for him to feed himself and the whole family not to be hungry. With his physical fitness increased threefold, and this pistol with unlimited bullets, Jang Lin is no longer very afraid of the zombies outside. The door was still blocked by the refrigerator and wardrobe. Jang Lin moved everything away first. The refrigerator was okay, but the wardrobe was very bulky. It was a solid wood wardrobe built by the landlord. The two sisters helped her move it here before. At this time, one person can move. Brother Lin, do you want to go out? A voice sounded from behind Jang Lin. Jang Lin looked back and saw that it was Qingwu. She must have been awakened by the sound of Jang Lin moving things. She was still a little confused and came out wearing a thin pajamas. Well, there isn't much food at home, so I have to find some food. Jang Lin said while moving things. Also, you should call me brother-in-law from now on. And Qingwu was completely awake and recalled what happened last night. At first, she thought it was Jang Lin who forced her sister with food, but her sister said good things about Jang Lin, and she didn't know whether to believe it or not. But today she saw Jang Lin going out early in the morning and risking his life to find food. She felt that Jang Lin was at least responsible. She hesitated and called out, "Sister, brother-in-law." "Yes." Jang Lin smiled and nodded. "Your sister was too tired last night. You go and stay with her and wait at home for me to bring you food." Okay. And Qingwu suddenly felt that Jang Lin seemed different today from before, but she couldn't tell what was different. In fact, this means having a gun in your hand and not panicking. In the past, Jang Lin was not short and not very thin, but due to long-term inactivity, his body was still a bit weak. Let alone fighting zombies, even fighting with people was probably not very good. Now what? His physical fitness has tripled, and he still has a gun in his hand. He is not afraid of humans or zombies. At this time, all the debris at the door had been moved away. Jang Lin gave his final explanation before leaving. "After I leave, lock the door and find something to block it. Unless I come back, don't open the door. Do you understand? In the apocalypse, what should be most guarded against are not zombies, but the same kind." Countless zombie-themed works of art have told Jang Lin this truth. There are two beautiful women and food at home, which are sources of danger. I got it. And Qingwu was also aware of this problem, and nodded to indicate that she had remembered it. Looking at Jang Lin's back walking out, she didn't know why, so she said again, "Inside you be careful, brother-in-law." Jang Lin waved his hand and left without looking back. This sister-in-law is very good. There were no zombies in the corridor at this time. It seemed that no one dared to go out on this floor, so the zombies went to other places to look for food. The elevator has been powered off, so you can only take the stairs. As soon as he turned a corner and entered the corridor, a terrifying roar like a beast's roar rang out, followed by a stench that hit his face. There is a zombie in the corridor. In the movie, this kind of monster doesn't go upstairs. But now the real zombies were walking on the stairs, faster than wild beasts, and rushed straight towards Jang Lin. Fortunately, Jang Lin reacted faster now and immediately took out the pistol from the space ring. Bang 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 bang, a series of sounds. Jang Lin was also a little panicked. After all, it was the first time he had been in contact with zombies at such a close range, which meant that his magazine was unlimited, otherwise he would have emptied the magazine. At such a close distance, even if it was Jang Lin's first time using a gun, it was impossible to miss. A dozen rounds of bullets would directly smash the zombies into sieves. Several of the bullets accidentally hit the head, and the zombie died again without any surprise. "I'm so stupid. You scared me." Jang Lin squatted on the steps and took a breath. Fortunately, the American-style eye is awesome. Without a gun, it would be really difficult to deal with zombies alone. The sound of gunfire might attract other zombies, so Giang Lin did not dare to take a rest. He quickly got up, came to another fire escape, and went down the stairs of the fire escape. There are doors at the entrance and exit of this passage, which blocked the zombies. No zombies could come in. He successfully reached the first floor. The place where Giang Lin lives is an apartment complex. There are 6 buildings in total, all of which are apartments. The population is very dense, so there are many zombies. He pushed open the stair door and saw many zombies wandering in the lobby on the first floor. Giang Lin knew that there was a back door on the first floor of the apartment, which was connected to the convenience store downstairs. He could go to the supermarket to find food without leaving the front door. But the problem now is that he can't even get out of the stairs. Although he had a gun in his hand, there were a lot of zombies outside. If he was caught accidentally, he would be doomed. Helpless, Giang Lin could only wait for the opportunity. Fortunately, there is no shortage of hungry people in the apocalypse. A group of people from the 3 apartments next door ran past the gate. They were armed with fire axes, kitchen knives, baseball bats and other weapons, and they were also wrapped in iron sheets or hard plastic with tape. Make armor on your body. It seems that someone from the 3 apartments has joined forces. They are fully prepared, have weapons and protective gear, and this is probably not the first time they have killed zombies. They also cooperate very well. The zombies' senses are very keen. They smelled the scent of living people in the 3rd building from the 4th building. In an instant, they were like hyenas seeing their injured prey and ran over there crazily. This is the opportunity. Giang Lin immediately opened the door and ran straight to the convenience store. As soon as he entered the convenience store, Giang Lin smelled a stench. When he lowered his head, he saw 2 corpses on the ground. Their corpses were intact and did not look like they had been killed by zombies. Because the flesh of people killed by zombies has been chewed clean, and those who are not chewed clean will also turn into zombies. They might have been killed. Judging from the clothes on the 2 corpses, they should be convenience store employees. Giang Lin looked around cautiously and found that there was no one else in the convenience store, so he felt relieved and started to sweep away the food. Most of the shelves in the convenience store were empty. Someone must have come to sweep them away. It doesn't matter. There was enough left to feed 3 people for a while. Giang Lin immediately activated the space ring and put all the food and pure water drinks within sight into the space ring. Although there are many of these things on the shelves, after being placed in the space, they don't take up any space at all. After a while, all the things in the convenience store were taken away by Giang Lin. Not only food and water, but also all kinds of daily necessities were taken away by him. Just these things are enough for him and his 2 sisters to survive for a long time. He looked out and saw that the people in the 3 apartments had closed the door on one side and opened the other side. They were guarding the door and slashing with weapons in their hands. Several zombies had already died under their weapons. The other part of them, like Giang Lin, went to the convenience store 3 buildings downstairs through the back door and raided like crazy. But they don't have artifacts like space rings, so they can only pack them bit by bit in bags. There is a limit to what each person can take away. Giang Lin just took a look to make sure there were no zombies coming. He found that all the zombies were attracted by them, so he was ready to go back without worries. But before he stepped out of the convenience store, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in the back of his head, and stars appeared in front of his eyes. Someone is attacking. A brick fell to the ground. The attacker used too much force, and the force of the counterattack prevented him from grabbing the brick. With this strength, if Giang Lin's physique hadn't tripled, he would have fainted. He was furious, turned around and shot him. Boom. Ah, you actually have a gun. A bearded man collapsed to the ground clutching his legs. The severe pain made his whole body twitch and he couldn't stop screaming. However, what frightened him even more was the Type 92 pistol in Giang Lin's hand. It is only the 5th day of the apocalypse. It was a peaceful time before. Who can have a gun in his hand? No wonder he was so surprised. Giang Lin looked at the man and found that he was still an acquaintance. It is you. His memory returned to half a year ago. At that time, he had just changed jobs, and the house he lived in before was too far away from the new company, so he entrusted this housing agency to help him rent a house. This man was the agent. This man was so eloquent that he rented a single apartment and paid half a year's rent. It turned out that he was the second landlord. Suddenly one day, the real landlord came to take possession of the house. Jang Lin was kicked out. When he tried to find this man later, he could no longer be found. At that time, Jang Lin was so poor that he relied on his girlfriend to support him. It took 3 months to recover. It was after that time that his colleague and Chingay heard that he had no place to live, so he invited him to share the apartment with him. Although they haven't seen each other for half a year, Jang Lin still clearly remembers this man's appearance and his name. Shu Kan, who are you? Shu Kan didn't think of Jang Lin. Maybe he had tricked too many people and couldn't remember everyone's appearance. Jang Lin narrowed his eyes and asked, "What did you see just now?" He had already noticed that the convenience store bar was a bit messy. This man must have been hiding in the bar. He must have seen him using the space ring to store things, and then attacked him secretly. The space ring is an artifact. If this is exposed. I didn't see anything. Shu Kan covered his legs with a painful look on his face. He also thought of the question that Jang Lin thought of, and immediately panicked. "Really, brother, you can go ahead, what should I do?" Didn't even see it. How could he not see it? Shu Kan has been hiding in a convenience store for 4 days. He has nothing to eat at home. On the first day of the apocalypse, he had no choice but to go downstairs to find something. The convenience store was closed at the time, and the 2 convenience store employees stayed behind closed doors. Zombies couldn't get in, so they were safe. But Shu Kan tricked them into opening the door, and then attacked them secretly, using the same brick that he had just attacked Jang Lin with. After killing 2 convenience store employees, he took over the convenience store. The front door was locked, so zombies couldn't get in, but the back door couldn't be locked, so there was nothing he could do if others came in to get food. If someone came, he would huddle under the bar. If he hadn't been greedy this time when he saw Jang Lin using a space ring to buy goods, he would have continued to hold on. "Ha ha." Jang Lin pointed the gun at his head and sneered, "Give you another chance, what did you see?" Shu Kan felt cold sweat dripping all over his body, and quickly changed his words, "I saw it." With a wave of your hand, those things on the shelf disappeared. After saying that, he endured the severe pain and knelt down, begging for mercy. "Brother, save my life, I promise not to talk nonsense, please spare me, I will pretend that I didn't see anything." Hiss, hiss. Jang Lin was just about to kill Shu Kan when he heard the roar of zombies. He turned around and saw that it was the gunfire that had attracted the zombies. These zombies started scratching at the door of the convenience store, making a very harsh sound. "Don't get entangled." Jang Lin immediately opened fire and wounded Shu Kan's other leg. Then, ignoring his screams, he grabbed his collar and threw him into the lobby on the first floor of the apartment outside the back door of the convenience store. As for himself, he quickly returned to the fire stairs from the back door of the convenience store. With 3 times the physical strength, he didn't feel tired at all and ran to the 24th floor in one breath. As for Shu Kan in the convenience store downstairs, the zombies had ready-made food. No one went after Jang Lin. They all gathered around Shu Kan and started to eat. Jang Lin reached the 24th floor, took a breath, then took out some food from the space ring and put it in a big bag. The space ring is different from the pistol. Although the gun is difficult to obtain, it is always possible to obtain it in reality, but the space ring probably hasn't been invented yet. Even though Chingay was willing to marry him, he didn't want her to know for the time being. After knocking on the door of number 12 on the 24th floor, a nervous voice came from inside. "Who?" "You can tell by the sound that it's Chingwu. Xiao Wu, I'm brother-in-law." There was a burst of messy sounds in the house. It was sisters Chingwu and Chingay who were cleaning things blocking the door. After a while, the door opened. Chingwu's pure and delicate little face caught Jang Lin's eyes first, and then Chingay's face was similar to hers, but with a bit more mature charm. Both of them breathed a sigh of relief. "Fortunately, you came back safely." The worried look on Chingay's face disappeared and a smile appeared. "Xiaowu and I have been worried about you upstairs." Jang Lin handed them the bag of food and said with a smile, "Don't worry, I'll be fine." After saying that, he took Chingay into his arms, put one hand on his shoulder, and stroked her breast with the other. Xiao Wei said, "I will always protect you and Xiao Wu, and I will also protect our children." And Chingay opened Jang Lin's hand and said angrily, "How could it be so fast?" After saying that, she looked at her sister and found that her sister had shifted her eyes in embarrassment. She looked at Jang Lin again, seeming to blame him for saying such a thing. Talk. Doesn't this just tell them what they did last night? Jang Lin smiled and said, "Then let's hurry up. I want you to give birth to many children for me. I'm not an old sow." And Chingay felt speechless. And Qingwu blushed a little. The bedroom in this small shabby apartment was not soundproof at all. She had listened to it in the middle of the night last night and had forgotten about it. When it was mentioned like this, she thought of her sister's voice again. It was still morning. The two sisters didn't eat anything in the morning. They were afraid that Jang Lin wouldn't be able to find food, so they could only look at the food at home and didn't dare to eat more. But now, looking at the big bag of food, the two of them felt much more relaxed. This big bag is enough for 3 people to eat for 2 or 3 days. And there's no need to save on eating that kind of food. Brother-in-law, you are so amazing. You went out for a while and you brought back so much food. And Qingwu held a large bag of food, with a happy smile on her face and admiration for Jang Lin. In the past, she wouldn't have even looked at the junk food in convenience stores, but after being hungry for several days, she had begun to slowly adapt to the apocalypse. At this time, it's good to eat something, so where do you get the right to be picky? You're tired, sit down and take a rest. Like a housewife treating her husband who had just gotten off work, and Chingay took Jang Lin's hand and brought him to the sofa, letting him sit down and rest. He took the initiative to bring a glass of water, then sat next to him and chatted with Jang Lin. I heard gunshots. You fired twice. Are you in danger? Jang Lin nodded. I met a zombie once in the corridor and once downstairs. He didn't mention the encounter with Shukan. And Chingay added, I'll come with you from now on. I'm too worried after you go out. I'll follow you. At least I'll have someone to take care of you. Jang Lin teased, but if you can't get out of bed tomorrow, how can you come with me? And Chingay recalled the madness last night. Her face turned red with shame, but she said in a very determined tone, don't think I don't understand. If you men do this too much, you will be weak. I don't believe you. This happens every day. Jang Lin chuckled. Then we'll see. Sister, brother-in-law, let's have something to eat. And Qingwu put some of the packaged braised food brought back by Jang Lin on a plate, and took some bread as a staple food. The only thing missing was vegetables. The 3 of them sat and ate together, telling jokes while eating. After eating, Jang Lin took and Chingay back to the house. And Qingwu was confused at first. She was full, so she should go back and lie down to reduce consumption. After sitting in the living room for a while, she finally realized. A blush suddenly appeared on his face, and half of his long and fair neck was red. Bah, it's still broad daylight, shameless. After the end of the world, Jang Lin's life got better. However, compared with him, some other people are not so good. For example, the resident at number 11 on the 24th floor of a 4-story apartment building. They are Jang Lin's neighbors. There are some conflicts with Jang Lin and the Infamily sisters. Maid, I saw it. The guy next door brought back a big bag of food. Wang Jia swallowed, with a taste of greed in his tone. Despite his delicate name, he is actually a dark, fat man with a full beard and a very hot temper. Before the end of the world, he often invited his friends to come to his place to drink and play mahjong. The games would last until the early hours of the morning, and the sound of yelling, telling dirty jokes, and the collision of mahjong would always keep 2 office workers and a student party next door awake all night. Good. During the day, whether they go to work or go to school, they have no energy. As the only man on the 12th, Jang Lin approached Wang Jia to negotiate on behalf of himself and the sisters, but received a rude answer. Can't you stand it? If you can't stand it, get out and move out. You can live in a big villa if you can afford it. Why live in an apartment? The fat man pointed at Jang Lin's nose and cursed. Jang Lin almost couldn't help but start a fight with him. Later, because Jang Lin came to his door, he often deliberately spoke loudly and threw mahjong in the middle of the night to retaliate against Jang Lin and the sisters. In short, in Jang Lin's impression, this fat man is not a good person. But now, Wang Jia is not holding back the good news. Brothers, what do you think? He looked at the other 3 people in the room. The day before the end of the world, he asked his friends to come over and play mahjong. 4 of them played for half the night, and when they woke up the next day, they discovered the end of the world. They had the same idea as Jang Lin, to survive until rescue arrived. Although the 4 old men are all strong, they will not take risks to find food downstairs. They often played cards for half the night, so they kept a lot of instant noodles and ham sausages at home to eat when they were hungry. Relying on these things, they persisted until the 5th day. However, on the 5th day, their village had run out of food, and they had no choice but to go hungry. It just so happened that today they heard the sound of the door next door, and they saw Jang Lin going out in the cat's eyes, and then came back after a while carrying a large bag of food. This gave them another idea. Zombies are so scary, but humans are not. Rather than taking the risk to find food right under the zombies' noses, it's better to grab it directly from the hands of the same kind. Old Wong, didn't you hear the gunfire? Another man wearing a vest and with arms as plush as a gorilla said. He just went out, and there was a gunshot. What does this mean? You won't hear it, do you know? It means he has a gun. Wang Jia was not afraid, but sneered, I know the guy next door best. If you are a coward, what can you do if you have a gun? You said it simply, who is going to carry the bullet, you? The man with the hairy arms retorted. Wang Jia sneered, then tell me, what are we going to eat next? Should we go downstairs and risk being eaten by zombies, or should we go next door to grab it? I also want to go next door and rob him, but he has a gun and I don't want to die yet. The man with the hairy arms said coldly. You're a coward, Wang Jia said disdainfully. It's precisely because he has a gun that I want to rob him. Think about it, if we had guns in the end of the world, would we be short of food? Would we be short of women? Quote, hey, I heard Lao Wang say that there is a pair of sisters next door who are very beautiful. If we can snatch them. Another card player also spoke. Wang Jia continued. Listen to me, the guy next door is just an ordinary person. He picked up a gun from somewhere. How much power can he exert? We used our brains to find a way to trick him into opening the door. It didn't work at all. Give him a chance to shoot and restrain him directly, then. Grab guns, rob food, rob women. A poker player took over. Suddenly, several people laughed obscenely. The man with the hairy arms was convinced and looked at the poker player who had been silent until now. Mouse, what do you mean? Mouse was also moved, then just listened to Lao Wang. The 4 people finished their discussion and started taking action immediately. If they wanted to trick Jang Lin into opening the door, they definitely couldn't go by themselves. Not to mention the inherent contradiction, in the end of the world, everyone would be wary of mature men. As long as Jang Lin was not a fool, there was no way he could open the door. Therefore, they planned to recruit someone to replace them. This person should preferably be a woman. Fortunately, Wang Jia usually keeps an eye on the neighbor women. In peacetime, he doesn't dare to mess around, but in the apocalypse, he doesn't have so many scruples. Wang Jia knocked on the door of number 16 on the 24th floor. Is there anyone in there? We are from the rescue team. Open the door. We have food here. At first, the residents of number 16 didn't believe it. But Wang Jia added, did you hear the gunshots in the morning? Those were the shots fired by our rescue team. Think about it, who else in this apartment except the rescue team can have guns? Now the resident on number 16 believed it. Resident number 16 is a woman, in her early 20s, with a slender figure, fair skin, and a beautiful face. However, she is a little hungry, her eyes are dull, and she seems to be a little unconscious. However, when he opened the door and saw his neighbor on the 1st floor, the resident on the 16th floor suddenly woke up and hurriedly closed the door. But after being hungry for several days, she was no match for Wang Jia and others. The 4 grown men immediately opened the door. Wang Jia grabbed her hair and said, Mater, be honest. Otherwise I'll kill you. Ah! Giuong screamed in horror. Wang Jia was afraid that she would attract zombies, so he punched her hard in the abdomen. Giuong immediately fell to her knees in pain and could not make a sound. Brother Wang, this girl is pretty good. When the man with hairy arms saw Giuong's appearance, he suddenly had some dirty thoughts in his heart. How about you guys have some fun first? Mousy, don't think about women every day. Are women important now? Wang Jia was a little angry. What's important now is to get a gun. As long as you have a gun, what do you want if you don't have a woman? By then, the sisters next door will be beautiful. It's all ours. Giuong knelt on the ground, with tears on his face and full of regret in his heart. She hated herself because she was blinded by hunger. She believed other people's lies and opened the door for bad people, ending up in her current situation. The only thing she was glad about now was that these people had other things to do and didn't have time to invade her for the time being. But Giuong knew that if they waited for them to finish what they were doing, she would still be unable to escape and would become a plaything of this group of people. Just be honest and obedient. Looking at Giuong kneeling on the ground, Wang Jia smiled. The violent methods he and his 3 companions had just used had made this woman completely obey. Next, you have to do this. He told Giuong his plan and taught her how to pretend to be pitiful to trick Jang Lin into opening the door. After that, he threatened her fiercely, if you help us catch the sisters in number 12, 2 people will help you share the burden. If you fail, humph. From now on, the 4 of us will take turns you. Giuong could only nod numbly. Wang Jia grabbed her hair, pulled her up, and kicked her again. Go ahead and knock on the door of number 12. Don't use any tricks, otherwise you know the consequences. Giuong walked step by step to the door of No. 12. She knew that the 4 villains were hiding in room 11, directly opposite room 11 and 12. They were lying behind the peephole, so they could just see her. Giuong didn't dare to play any tricks, so he could only follow the instructions and knock on the door of number 12. At first, there was no response from the door. Giuong could only keep knocking, until a man's voice came from inside. Who? Jang Lin was originally playing games with Chingay in the room, but Chingwu heard the knock on the door outside and called Jang Lin out. This made Jang Lin a little unhappy. He asked Chingwu to go to his room and hide with his sister, while he lay on the door and looked out through the peephole. She saw Giuong, a very beautiful young woman. But this actually made Jang Lin more vigilant. Hello, I am a resident of No. 16. I have been hungry for many days. I saw you brought back a lot of food today. Can you lend me some? Giuong said pitifully. She didn't mean to be pitiful. He had been hungry for several days, had just been beaten again, and was almost raped. The aggrieved and pitiful expression on his face at this time was definitely showing his true colors. She has a thin figure and a delicate face and facial features. Coupled with her current demeanor, she can arouse the protective desire of 99% of men. You were wrong. But Jang Lin was not moved at all and said coldly, I don't have anything to eat here, you can find someone else. Brother, I'm really hungry. Giuong is not a person who can pretend to be pitiful, but Wang Jia understands people's hearts very well and has taught her how to say, I haven't eaten for several days, and I fainted from hunger. I just woke up. Come here, give me something to eat, I'm willing to give anything. This is a naked suggestion. To be honest, Jang Lin was agitated for a moment, but he soon came to his senses. He couldn't let the caterpillars get to his head at this time, and still refused, sorry, I really don't have any here. Giuong continued to follow Wang Jiao's words. Wang Jia had engaged in telecommunications fraud for a period of time before, and was good at it, but later the control became stricter and he could no longer do it. At this time, he wrote a set of tricks for Giuong. The 4 people on number 11 had been lying behind the door watching, but they could only see Giuong's back, but they couldn't see that when Giuong said this, his mouth kept turning to the right. This caused her to speak a little vaguely, but the person on the 11th didn't think too much, just thought she was too nervous. But Jang Lin saw that it was the woman outside the door who was giving him another code. Because no one would say pitiful and begging words while pouting to make people laugh. To the right of 12 is number 14, and if it is opposite, it is number 11. As the person on number 11 trying to harm me. After being modified by the genetic modification agent, Jang Lin's brain became much smarter and he could analyze problems very clearly. Jang Lin had conflicts with Wang Jia before, and now he immediately thought of Wang Jia. Jang Lin probably understood. The beautiful woman outside the door must have been forced to come here. She was not Wang Jia on the 11th, but she must be another bad guy. Her food was being targeted. What may be worse is that her wife and sister-in-law were also targeted. Giuong didn't know if the people in the room understood the code she gave. Jang Lin never agreed to open the door, so she continued speaking according to Wang Jia's instructions. She felt very uneasy. Regardless of whether she succeeds or not, she will be bullied by the 4 men in No. 11. She might as well take a gamble. She also heard the gunfire, so she bets that the man in number 12 has a gun. If he is prepared, he may not be able to defeat No. 11. 4 men in the number. I have to say that Giuong is a very smart woman. If you are an ordinary person, even if you have a gun in your hand, but you are unprepared, you may be controlled or beaten to death if you are suddenly attacked. And if you are prepared, if you have a gun and bullets in your hand, you don't need to care how many enemies there are. Jang Lin is better. His gun is in the space ring and can be taken out with a thought. Moreover, his physical fitness is far superior to that of ordinary people, and he will not be controlled even if he is suddenly attacked. But if he was not prepared and was attacked by someone unexpectedly, an accident might happen. But when he met Giuong, a very smart woman, he was prepared and had nothing to fear. Suddenly, Jang Lin seemed to be persuaded and said, "Okay, I see that you are pitiful, I will give you some food." Giuong didn't know whether Jang Lin understood her hint or really relented, but she still sat down to make the final preparations. She clasped her hands together and bowed to express her gratitude, but from an angle that the 4 people on the 11th could not see. He held up 4 fingers. There are 4 people representing number 11. Jang Lin understood, but when there were guns, he didn't care about the 4 people at all. He opened the door. Giuong stared at the door. The moment she opened it, she saw Jang Lin's hands were empty, and she suddenly felt desperate. It's over. Jang Lin didn't have a gun in his hand, which meant that he didn't have a gun in the first place, or he didn't understand her hint at all, so he was unprepared. But no matter which one it is, it means that you are finished. How can one person fight 4? The 4 people on number 11 also watched the situation on number 12. The moment they saw the door open, the 4 people's eyes widened. Seeing Jang Lin's hands were empty, the 4 people almost laughed. Shame, the woman pretended to be pitiful and lost her mind. She opened the door without even bringing a gun. Wang Jia laughed at Jang Lin in his heart. He immediately opened the door and rushed out first, not forgetting to shout, "Brothers, come on, seize guns, seize food, seize women." Over there, Jang Lin seemed to really believe the woman's words. He opened the door completely, let Giuong into the room, and said, "Come in first, and I'll get you something to eat." Giuong closed her eyes. What kind of house did she enter? Ruined, completely finished. She had already heard the voices of the 4 men behind her, and she had only one thought in her heart, which was very desperate. She and the sisters number 12 would become the playthings of those 4 men. And the man on the 12th will end up extremely miserable. Bang 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 bang. 4 gunshots were fired. 2 people fell down. Mouzi and his less talkative poker player were unlucky. They were hit by Jang Lin's random shooting. One hit the head and killed him on the spot. The other hit the chest. He was not dead for the time being, but the wound kept bleeding. He probably won't die soon. Wang Jia and Mouzi were luckier. Jang Lin shot 4 times, but the 2 of them missed each other. But the 2 were also stunned by the gunfire. They later made up the plan. After Jang Lin opened the door, they first checked to see if Jang Lin had a gun. If he had a gun, they would give up the plan. If there was no gun, they would proceed according to the original plan. It can be said to be extremely stable. Door number 12 opened, and they could clearly see that Jang Lin had empty hands and no gun at all. As a result, in an instant, the pistol seemed to suddenly appear in Jang Lin's hand. With a few bangs, 2 of the 4 of him died. Wang Jia and Mouzi were lucky enough not to die, but when faced with the black muzzle of the gun, they suddenly felt frightened. How could they dare to rush forward? They stopped and stood in the aisle, their faces ugly, but they did not dare to move. As expected, "It's you." Jang Lin pointed the gun at the 2 of them, feeling a little regretful. He originally wanted to kill an enemy with 1 bullet, but his shooting skills were still not good enough. "Brother, it's all misunderstandings." Mouse was sweating profusely, raising his hands high and retreating uncontrollably. How have modern people ever experienced the horror of being pointed at a gun? In the past, when he was on the street, the most he could do was use a knife, and it was a watermelon knife that could only chop. It didn't hit the vital point, and it couldn't kill someone with more than a dozen knives. But now, Giang Lin can just pull the trigger. Take his life. Wang Jiacheng was the fastest and closest to Giang Lin. When he saw Giang Lin pointing his gun at the mouse, a crazy idea suddenly came to his mind. If I were fast, he wouldn't have time to shoot. Originally, Wang Jia had always thought that Giang Lin was a coward, but seeing Giang Lin kill two people so decisively just now, he knew that he was wrong. If you want to survive at this time, you can only gamble. If you win the bet, the gun is yours and so is the woman. He feels that his success rate is quite high. After all, he often fights and kills people, is very strong, and has rich experience, while Giang Lin is just an office worker, quite tall and strong, but what's the use of that? As long as you are fast enough. Giuong opened his eyes at this time. She was already in despair, but the sound of gunfire brought her hope. Seeing the two people falling to the ground, with their hands raised and not daring to move, she smiled and thought happily, fortunately, I am smart, and the man number 12 is also smart and understands my code, but, where did he get his gun? Mouse, do it, Wang Jia observed for a long time and had already made up his mind. He immediately yelled. He was not secretly communicating with Mouse, but wanted to use Mouse to attract Giang Lin's firepower and create opportunities for himself. When Mouse heard the shouting, everyone was stunned. He was about to open his mouth to explain, but Giang Lin had already fired. Several blood flowers bloomed on Mouse's chest, and he was no longer breathing. Wang Jia wanted to laugh. The boy on number 12 was indeed fooled. Giang Lin killed the mouse, but he had already approached Giang Lin and punched Giang Lin's arm hard. He punched with all his strength. He believed that with his punch, Giang Lin would be unable to hold the gun in his hand. Once he lost the gun, he would be able to kill Giang Lin with his strong physique and rich experience. And then, he can get everything he wants. However, before Wang Jia's fist hit Giang Lin's gun-holding arm, Giang Lin's other fist that was not holding a gun hit him on the head. Boom! There was a loud bang. The fist collided with the hard skull. Wang Jia felt like he was hit by a giant hammer. His vision went black and he couldn't see anything. At the same time, his body fell to the ground uncontrollably. On the other side, Giuong's words, "Be careful," were already suppressed before he could even say, "Be careful," out of his mouth. She had been paying attention to Wang Jia, and when she saw Wang Jia's sudden attack, her heart suddenly rose, and she quickly wanted to remind Giang Lin, but before she could say anything, Giang Lin had already beaten Wang Jia to the ground. Is he always so brave? Giang Lin stepped on Wang Jia's neck and pointed a gun at his head. He doesn't know that I know Kung Fu. After saying that, there was a gunshot, and a small bloody flower burst out on Wang Jia's head. Wang Jia died. When Giang Lin was pointed at and scolded by him, he once wanted to kill him, but in a peaceful and prosperous age, this was impossible. But now, Giang Lin can kill him. Hello, we should have met, right? Giang Lin put the gun back into space and waved his palm at Giuong, who was stunned. They were in the same building, not to mention familiar, but they had met before. Giang Lin looked familiar to Giuong and knew that she should be a resident on this floor. Giuong came back to his senses and said quickly, I live in number 16, we have met before, and I have an impression of you. She has already seen Giang Lin's decisiveness, but not everyone can kill 4 people in one breath without changing his expression. For such a ruthless person, she must build a relationship. In fact, Giang Lin couldn't explain clearly. Before the apocalypse, an ordinary person had never killed a chicken. However, after the apocalypse, he would kill people without blinking an eye, but he would feel a little excited. Giang Lin didn't know if he was a pervert, but he knew that the woman in front of him was very beautiful and could be used as an alternative target for the next mission. After all, An Qingwu is An Qingge's sister, and An Qingge is a relatively principled person. Giang Lin is not too sure about winning An Qingwu's reward. In this case, you can change the goal. You are very smart. If you hadn't given me the code, I would have followed their lead. Giang Lin praised her with a smile, and then said, how about, come in and sit down, I'm here, there's something to eat. Giuong had already been deceived once. Logically speaking, She shouldn't trust another man easily, but when she heard that there was something to eat, she immediately swallowed her saliva. The hunger that had disappeared due to nervousness and fear suddenly came like a tide. Moreover, she felt that a strong man like Jang Lin did not need to lie to a woman. If he had any ideas, he could just point the gun at her head. Then I'm not welcome. Jang Lin invited Giuong into the house. At this time, Chingay and Qingwu also ran out of the bedroom. Chingay was very nervous. Jang Lin, I heard you fired. Just now, when Jang Lin saw Giuong giving a secret signal, he asked Chingay and Qingwu to hide to prevent them from being harmed. Then Chingay and Qingwu heard several gunshots in the room. They were worried. At this time, they were relieved to see Jang Lin safe and sound. It's okay, I took care of a few people who wanted to grab food. Jang Lin smiled easily. At this time, Qingwu glanced outside the door and saw blood everywhere and 4 corpses. She felt nauseated and wretched. She suppressed the feeling of nausea and quickly closed the door. Qingay also saw the body. She was slightly silent. Only then did the two sisters realize that although Jang Lin was a very nice person, he was not merciless at all when it was time to strike. Chapter 11. Qingay was still a little unnatural at this time. Her cheeks were red and her clothes were a little messy. She suddenly stopped in the middle of playing the game. This feeling was very uncomfortable. But after seeing the 4 corpses outside the door, this discomfort disappeared and turned into another kind of discomfort. Then, she saw Jang Lin bringing the beautiful woman outside the door into the house. She has decided that Jang Lin likes her very much, and she doesn't think there is anything wrong with Jang Lin's behavior. Instead, she thinks Jang Lin is a kind-hearted person. But she also didn't want to think about it. Could a person who killed 4 people without blinking an eye be a good person if he could ride on a horse? Qingwu was a little worried. After all, my sisters are now supported by Jang Lin. What should I do if Jang Lin falls in love with someone else? She gave her sister a worried look. Qingay would use a calm expression, which made Qingwu feel a little more at ease. It's good that her sister is confident. Here, Jang Lin and Giuong have already sat down in the living room. Qingay felt that she had to be grand as the host, so she asked her sister to bring water to Giuong, while she went to the house to get some food for Giuong. After all, my own men have spoken. How did they force you to knock on my door? Jang Lin asked curiously. Just as Giuong opened her mouth to answer, she saw Qingay coming out with food. She didn't even look at the water Qingwu was holding, and just picked up the food and ate it. She had been without food for 2 or 3 days and relied on drinking water to survive. When she came, there was still water sloshing around in her stomach. Seeing Giuong wolfing down the food, Qingay and Qingwu were extremely lucky. Fortunately, they had Jang Lin, otherwise they would definitely be worse off than Giuong now. After eating a piece of bread and a piece of ham, Giuong finally felt like he was alive, and then he talked about the experience of being caught by Wang Jia and others. These people are so insidious. Qingwu had not left the campus yet and was relatively simple. After listening to Giuong's story, she felt chills all over her body and had a deeper understanding of the dangers of the apocalypse. Jang Lin asked her, "What are your plans for the future?" This Giuong is also a great beauty. She is a petite and weak-looking girl, but she is very smart and decisive. She dares to take risks and give Jang Lin a code. Jang Lin felt that she was very suitable as the next target. Giuong was silent for a moment, then sighed, "What can we do? I don't dare to go downstairs. After eating this meal, I will go back to the room and lie down and wait for rescue." There's no rescue. Qingay shook his head slightly. In this situation, it's good if you can survive on your own, but there's no time to rescue others. Giuong became even more silent. Going back to her room, she was just waiting to die. She couldn't see clearly. In the current situation, the only way to survive was to follow the strong. And the strong one is Jang Lin in front of her. If Jang Lin was the only one, she would plan to act cute and coquettish to see if she could persuade Jang Lin to protect her. But there are 2 other women here. The younger one is called Jang Lin's brother-in-law, and the older one must be Jang Lin's woman. The big one is okay, not hostile to him. But the little one looked at him warily from the moment he came in. Giuong knew that even if Jang Lin was willing to help him, the two sisters would not agree if he rashly asked for help. Jang Lin also saw Giuong's embarrassment, but he did not speak. Sometimes, he should not be too proactive, otherwise he would look cheap, like a licking dog. Giuong had to take the initiative to speak, so that she could be more willing. Neither An Qingge nor An Qingwu spoke. The two sisters' positions are consistent. Here, Jang Lin, can my name be Brother Lin? Giuong spoke slowly, his voice was low and pitiful. Look at me, I am helpless, I have nothing to eat, and I still need I'm being bullied by bad people, can you protect me? As she spoke, she looked up at Jang Lin, as if she had the word, plea, written on her face. Before Jang Lin could speak, An Qingge said, our life is not easy either. Jang Lin has to feed 3 people by himself, which is already very hard. If you follow us, I'm afraid you won't be able to survive. An Qingwu glared at Giuong. She knew that this woman coveted her brother-in-law. Jang Lin also sighed, you are very smart, and you also reminded me with a coded message. I also want to help you, but my wife said the same thing. How can I support the 4 of us by myself? Giuong was mentally prepared for Jang Lin and An Qingge's rejection. She knew that if she wanted to stay, she had to show her worth. Do you want to live in a villa? She asked suddenly, and then continued. That kind of villa that has been modified, well protected, has a water purifier, a generator, and a certain amount of food reserves can also be said to be a doomsday shelter. What do you mean, you have a place like this? Jang Lin was really moved. Living in this kind of apartment, there is a mix of good and bad. Even if he is strong, he will be harmed by someone if he can't protect himself. If there is a shelter, then much safer. Giuong explained. I am a real estate agent, and I am an agent for high-end housing. I have a client who entrusted me with a house before he went abroad. I also have the key. He is an apocalyptic fan. He always thought that the end of the world would come, so he prepared a shelter in advance. If his business failed and he owed money, he would not be able to sell this house. Quote. Tisk. Jang Lin looked at her and asked, what you said is true or false, aren't you trying to deceive us? Of course it's true. Let's go and have a look to find out whether this house exists. If not, I'll let you do what you want, okay? She puffed up her chest towards Jang Lin, looking very confident. Jang Lin touched his chin and started thinking. Giuong was very worried. She thought this was her only bargaining chip. If Jang Lin wasn't moved, she didn't know how to ask Jang Lin to protect her. On the side, An Qingwu showed her sister a grinning expression, seeming to urge her sister to persuade Jang Lin not to agree to Giuong. She felt that the villa shelter was a lie made up by this woman, and Giuong just wanted to trick her brother-in-law into protecting her. An Qingge stared at Jang Lin. She doesn't think Giuong wants to seduce Jang Lin. If there is a shelter, everyone can be safe, which is a good thing. Okay, I believe you. Jang Lin stood up and extended a hand to Giuong. You tell us the location, and we will study the route and go to that villa to take a look. Giuong showed her small face, and her heart was so excited that it was difficult to express it. She held out her small hand and placed it in Jang Lin's big hand. Jang Lin held her hand and shook it gently. Before arriving at the villa, you will not be short of food, and no one will bully you. Giuong looked like he had never done any menial work. His hands were white and tender, as if they were boneless, and felt very comfortable in his hands. But Jang Lin was not greedy. He shook his hand lightly and let go. Our current location is within the 4th Ring Road, on the edge of Jindu district. The villa I mentioned is even further away. It is in a mountainous villa area outside the 5th Ring Road, about 10 kilometers away from us. Giuong said proactively the location of the villa. If you want to go through it, you must plan carefully. There is a drone in my room with a shooting function. I will go get it. This thing can be of great help to us. Good stuff, I'll go get it with you. Jang Lin was overjoyed. He was afraid that zombies would suddenly come up and hurt Giuong, so he got up and went to number 16 with her. Looking at the backs of the 2 people leaving, An Qingwu said angrily, Sister, I think this woman is not well-meaning, you must be careful. Originally, she was a little uncomfortable with Jang Lin suddenly becoming her brother-in-law, but at this time, she felt a sense of crisis, and she instantly accepted the fact that Jang Lin was her brother-in-law. Don't think so much. And Chingay rubbed his sister's little head and said with a smile, Jang Lin just wants to find a safe shelter for us, and I can see that Giuong just wants to survive. Quote. Room 16. After Jang Lin arrived, he looked at the surrounding environment and became more suspicious of Giuong. She said she was a real estate agent. But can the agent afford such a good house? This apartment complex is not considered low-end, but it is not considered high-end either. There are 3 single apartments, 2 double apartments, and 1 large 3-person apartment. The 4 buildings where Jang Lin and Giuong live are double apartments, like the house rented by Chingay. The interior decoration is very ordinary, and the furniture and appliances are also cheap. The landlord bought them specially to make up for the rent. But Giuong is different. The interior decoration is very exquisite, and the furniture and appliances are all high-end goods. More importantly, judging from the situation inside, she lives alone. This is not something a real estate agent can afford. Seemingly discovering Jang Lin's suspicion, Giuong quickly explained, You know, I am an intermediary and I have a lot of houses. Some landlords have completely entrusted the houses to me. I have the keys, so I can rent them out before they happen. When the time comes, I'll stay here for free, just a small professional benefit. Jang Lin didn't quite believe it. It doesn't matter, as long as you don't lie to me about the shelter. If you don't have a villa when you get there, you can kill me, or you can do whatever you want with me. Giuong seemed a little aggrieved by not being trusted. I just want to live, I won't lie to you. After she finished speaking, she ran to her bedroom and took out a big box. Jang Lin glanced at it. It is a high-end model, priced at more than 120,000 yuan on some websites, and it is still a basic configuration. If you add peripherals, the total price may be 180,000 yuan. Jang Lin sneered in his heart. There is no way this plane was left by the landlord, right? How can a real estate agency afford hundreds of thousands of drones? But he didn't say it. Regarding Giuong's secret, we can slowly dig out it. Giuong came out holding the plane and said, There are 6 batteries in total, 2 of them are dead, and there are 4 batteries left, which can fly for more than an hour. Jang Lin asked, During this period, are you staying with us or with you? Giuong said without thinking, Of course I will live at your place. Although the security door here is strong, it cannot withstand the dangers of the human heart. 2 bedrooms, 1 for me and my wife, and 1 for you and my sister-in-law. Is that okay? Giuong is not used to living with others. She used to live in a 2-bedroom apartment. But now, she agreed very quickly, no problem. Jang Lin took the drone and said to her, Take what you want to bring, and you won't come here again. Giuong thought for a moment, then went to get a change of clothes, but nothing else. This woman is very smart. Jang Lin took her back to number 12 and began to study drones. Giuong had several mobile phones, one of which was still charged. There were videos she shot with a drone on it, which she showed to Jang Lin and the sisters. What she photographed was the road from the apartment to the suburban villa. Whether it was an avenue or a small road, there were zombies wandering around. The situation was the same in every community. After reading this, and Qingwu's head was pounding. How are we going to get there? There is no safe route at all. Jang Lin was silent for a while, and then said, It's definitely not possible to walk on the ground. There is only one way now, take the subway track. Below the apartment is the subway entrance. And Chingay rents an apartment here because the most important thing is the convenience of going to work. The location of the villa mentioned by Giuong is not far from the subway entrance of the terminal station. If you walk along the subway line, it may be safer. Giuong, does your drone have a signal underground? Jang Lin asked. Giuong thought for a while, there is a signal, but it can only fly 2 or 3 kilometers. It is estimated that it will not be able to fly any further. Okay, you control the drone to see what's going on in the subway. If there aren't many zombies, we'll take the subway passage. Good. Giuong worked very neatly and immediately moved the drone to the window and controlled the drone to fly under the subway station. Fortunately, the wireless network is not out yet. The drone's remote control has its own screen, and soon, the situation in the subway station was displayed on the remote control screen. Hiss. There are a lot of zombies in the subway station. When Chingay saw the situation inside, he couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. Everyone also looked horrified. In the subway station, the zombies are denser than in the residential area. It can be said that it is a mountain of corpses and a sea of corpses. The space of the subway station is small and the flow of people is large. This situation is normal. Giuong patted his face to calm down. It won't work underground. There are so many zombies that you can't kill them all with all your bullets. The three women couldn't help but feel a little discouraged. It doesn't work on the ground or underground. Do we have to fly over there? Or should I give up my plan to go to the shelter? But Jang Lin seemed to have seen something. He stared closely at the picture on the remote control screen. Yutong, control the drone to continue flying in and take a look at the subway track. Look at what's inside, we can't get through at all. Yutong said in confusion, but still followed Jang Lin's instructions to take a look. On the subway track, several carriages have completely collapsed. There are still some zombies in the carriages, but the doors are closed and they cannot get out at all. There are blood stains on the glass of the carriage. Seeing these traces, it seems that you can feel the fear of the living people in the carriage at that time. The drone flew over the car, and beyond that was the subway track with no end in sight, like a giant dragon winding in the darkness. There are no zombies in the tracks. Jang Lin's idea is correct. It is very safe to climb over the railing and walk inside the subway track. But now there is a problem, that is, there are too many zombies in the subway station. I remember that when we were approaching the next station, there was a section of the subway that was open air. Maybe we could climb onto the track from there. Jang Lin proposed a new idea. Brother-in-law, can't we not go? And Qingwu was a little reluctant to go out. She was too afraid of the zombies outside. I feel that we can survive here. We must go. Yutong spoke first. The city is densely populated, and food depends entirely on external supplies. After the end of the world, it won't take long for food in the city to be scarce, and there is a lot of food in the villa I mentioned, reserve. In fact, Jang Lin doesn't have to worry about food. He has a space ring, and the food will not spoil inside. He can ensure that the four of them will always have food. But Jang Lin wants to find a safe and spacious place. His system is a family prosperity system, and he will definitely have many wives and children in the future. If there is no safe base, then when he goes out, his wife and children may be easily in danger. Jang Lin is planning for the future. Xiao Wu, she's right. And Qingay stroked her sister's hair. The food we can collect now has a shelf life. It won't be long before we can find food. Even if we can still find food, it won't be eat, we have to make plans early. Yutong seemed to really want to go to the suburban villa, and then said, the owner of that house has made a lot of preparations for the end of the world. He even cultivated a vegetable plot and even prepared the seeds. Jang Lin looked at her. Is this woman really not afraid of doubting herself? The more you talk about it, the bigger the flaws become. As if feeling Jang Lin's gaze, Yutong turned to look at him. Her eyes were very open, a bright smile appeared on her pretty face, and then she said to the sisters. When we get to the suburban villa, we won't have to worry about food anymore. You don't want Jang Lin to take risks all the time to look for food outside, right? I have no objection, and Qingwu was convinced. In fact, it doesn't matter whether she agrees or disagrees, and it doesn't matter whether Qingay agrees or disagrees. As long as Jang Lin wants to go, he must go. But being able to unify one's thoughts is better than four people each having their own ideas. So, the plan now is this. Jang Lin said slowly. Let's go to the subway entrance of the next station first, climb onto the subway track, and then walk all the way along the subway track until the terminal station, climb out of the terminal station, and then go to the suburban villa. All three women nodded. Let's rest today. Tomorrow I will explore the surrounding area. If there are no big problems, I will set off the day after tomorrow. Jang Lin made a decision and then said, Qingay and I will go back to the house. You two can go back and rest too. Eat whatever you want and keep your energy up. And Qingay couldn't help but roll her eyes at Jang Lin. She didn't believe that Jang Lin would rest after he returned. But she still followed Jang Lin honestly. Just now, the game was interrupted in the middle, and Jang Lin was not the only one who was unhappy. Xiao Wu. Yutong looked at Qingwu and stretched out a small hand. Can I call you this? We will be together for a long time in the future, please take care of me. Although Qingwu was wary of this woman, seeing that Ji Yutong was so proactive, she couldn't show her hostility, so she stretched out a small white hand and shook Ji Yutong's hand. Afterwards, the two returned to the house together. The two of them were sitting on the bed, doing nothing. Ji Yutong took the initiative to chat with Qingwu, and within a short time, he had almost inquired about the situation of Jang Lin and the sisters. After all, Qingwu is a college student who has not stepped out of the ivory tower, and her mind is relatively simple. A smart woman like Ji Yutong takes the initiative to talk nonsense. Even if she reminds herself to stay vigilant, she still accidentally tells a lot of useful information. It turns out that Jang Lin and Qingge were together not long ago. Ji Yutong read this key information in his mind, with an inexplicable look on his face. He didn't know what he was thinking. Suddenly, some sounds came from next door. Qingwu covered her ears helplessly. Come again. She didn't sleep well last night. Ji Yutong also had a strange expression. It was not dark yet. Well, your sister and brother-in-law have a really good relationship. She could only say this helplessly. Qingwu nodded awkwardly. Ji Yutong didn't care about the sound next door. She didn't know what she was thinking and didn't even bother to say anything. Qingwu, on the other hand, simply buried her head in the quilt. The sound from the next door made her whole body feel a strange feeling, as if there was a fire in her body that could not be released. Time flies by. Ji Yutong could ignore the sounds next door at first and think about her own things, but as time went by, she showed a surprised look. Hell, Xiao Wu, your brother-in-law. Has he always been so fierce? Qingwu. Early next morning, Jang Lin walked downstairs feeling refreshed and took the fire escape. Zombies were wandering in the lobby on the first floor again, and there were several more gnawed bones on the ground. Someone should have gone downstairs to look for food, but he became the food of the zombies. His space ring is full of food, so he is not in a hurry to find food today. His main purpose today is to explore the way. It takes at least 2 kilometers from one subway station to the next. If you walk, this is a long distance, especially when the road is full of zombies. So it's important to choose a safe route. Because there were zombies outside the corridor, Jang Lin had no choice but to stay in the corridor. There were too many zombies. Although his gun had unlimited bullets, it was just a pistol. It was not very powerful and could not fight so many zombies at the same time, and the gunshots were noisy. It will also attract zombies from other places. This is not the time to force yourself. After walking in the corridor for a while, suddenly, footsteps were heard from above, and there was more than one person. Jang Lin suddenly became alert. He put the pistol into the space and quietly moved them down. After a while, a group of people arrived in the corridor on the first floor. They also saw Jang Lin. This is a group of people wearing all kinds of homemade armor and holding various weapons in their hands. They are basically longer ones, with a kitchen knife or similar homemade weapons tied to one end of the stick. It seems that some people in the 4 buildings have also joined forces. Brother, come down to find food. The leader was very tall. Jang Lin, who was 1.8 meters tall, lowered his head when he stood in front of him. Moreover, he was very strong and it felt like his whole body was full of muscles. My name is Chen Zabo. I live on the 12th floor. We are all on the 12th floor. Now we are working together to kill zombies and find food. Are you interested in joining us? The strong man named Chen Zabo is very friendly, and he probably has the idea that one more person will give him more strength. Jang Lin also introduced himself, saying that he lived on the 23rd floor and had been hungry for several days. He couldn't help but come down to find food today. He directly refused Chen Zabo's invitation. He was not short of food and could kill zombies himself, so there was no point in joining forces with others. Chen Zabo didn't care much about Jang Lin's rejection. He chuckled twice and asked, "Brother, did you hear the gunshots that rang out in our building yesterday? Do you know who he is?" "I also heard gunshots, but I don't know who he is," Jang Lin said seriously. "Ha ha." Chen Zabo smiled. He seemed a little suspicious, but he didn't pursue it too much. "Do you want to go out? You can follow us, it will be safer." "Thank you then." Jang Lin was not polite. It was indeed difficult for him to pass through so many zombies by himself. Chen Zabo is burly and looks like a reckless man, but he is actually very smart. There are a total of 6 people in his team, each with weapons and armor. But he did not choose to fight the zombies outside. Chen Zabo waved, and a small man came over behind him. He took out a mobile phone, opened the corridor door a gap, then put the mobile phone against the ground, pushed hard, and the mobile phone slid out. After a while, the passionate DJ music sounded outside. The zombies have very keen senses, and they swarmed in the direction of the mobile phone in an instant. Chen Zabo opened the door. Now, go directly to the convenience store downstairs, hurry. Giang Lin was stunned for a moment. Don't they know that the convenience store 4 buildings down is out of items? It seemed they were going downstairs for the first time. The little man at the head was ready to rush out, but Giang Lin dodged and stopped him. The little man was anxious. What are you doing? The zombies were lured away, but they would still come back if they couldn't find food. He felt that Giang Lin was committing a crime and wasting this hard-won opportunity. You're riding a horse to cause trouble, aren't you? A man behind him also scolded. Brother Chen thinks highly of you, so he allowed you to join. It's okay that you're riding a horse and don't know how to appreciate it. Now you're still delaying our important event. Chen Zabo was also a little unhappy, but he was still restrained and just asked lightly, Brother Giang Lin, is it inappropriate for you to do this? Giang Lin was not the kind of person who would kindly remind him, but because Chen Zabo was relatively friendly, he didn't want Chen Zabo to take the risk and run to the convenience store, only to find nothing. There's nothing in the convenience store. You mean you don't have any? Get out of here. The man behind became anxious and pushed Giang Lin, and cursed, I think you just want to occupy the convenience store and deliberately don't let us go there, right? The man behind was also quite strong, although he was shorter, but he was quite strong. An ordinary person would be staggered by his push, but Giang Lin reacted quickly and was stronger, knocking his hand away. Hey, are you looking for trouble? The man behind was furious, I'm going to kill you on horseback. Giuong, stop. Chen Zabo stopped him, and then looked at Giang Lin seriously, as if he was exploring something. How did you get the news? Giang Lin said lightly, if you don't believe it, just go there. The zombies haven't come yet, so you still have a chance. Brother Chen, I don't believe it. The little man shouted. There are so many things in the convenience store, how can there be nothing left? Besides, he is alone, and there are so many zombies outside, so he can't get to the convenience store. This news is certain he made it up. Chen Zabo hesitated for a moment. He was very suspicious that the man with the gun was Giang Lin, and that Giang Lin took the things in the convenience store. Okay, I won't tell you any more. Giang Lin has fulfilled his obligation to remind you and no longer pesters. I'm going out from the front door and will help you lure away some zombies. If you are willing to go to the convenience store, then go ahead. After saying that, Giang Lin opened the door and ran out. Just at this time, a few zombies came back. When they saw Giang Lin, they were like perverts seeing beautiful women. They immediately pounced on them like wolves and tigers. The speed was faster than normal people running. However, Giang Lin was faster now. He walked all the way out of the main entrance, and the zombies couldn't catch up with him. Brother Chen, this guy really lured away the zombies. Giuong was overjoyed. Shall we go to the convenience store quickly? The little man also said, Mater, if he hadn't attracted some zombies now, I would have had to chop him up and throw him out to feed the zombies to satisfy my hatred. After saying that, he also looked at Chen Zabo. Obviously, except for Chen Zabo who believed a little, no one else believed Giang Lin's words. Chen Zabo couldn't say anything. When you lead a team, you can't say what it is. Everyone takes the risk and comes out. There is a convenience store in front of you. You should go and see it no matter what. Let's go into the convenience store through the back door. A group of people took advantage of the zombies being led away by Giang Lin and quickly came to the back door of the 4 apartment buildings. Through the back door, they found the holy place that everyone longed for in the early days of the apocalypse, a convenience store. However, when a group of 6 people crossed the border and only the skeletal body of Shu Kan was left, they all fell silent. My mother, who is so wicked? Is there really nothing left? Giuong suddenly vomited. if I knew who this person was, I would give his mother's A*, exploded. Not only Xiao Wang was cursing, but others were also scolding, but his vocabulary was not as rich as Xiao Wang's, and the attack power of the scolding was not high. Chen Zabo couldn't help but curse, and then looked around with a pair of sharp eyes like an eagle. After seeing the two warheads under Shu Kan's bones, he seemed to understand something. The roars of zombies could be heard outside. Chen Zabo had no time to continue thinking. He yelled, "Brothers, there is nothing in the convenience store. Let's change the target. Next, it will be a tough battle." The other side, Giang Lin had already ran out of the apartment. There are many zombies downstairs in the apartment, but they can't keep up with Giang Lin's speed. As long as he is not surrounded by zombies, it is not very dangerous. This is what he just discovered. Although his physical fitness has tripled, so far, he has only used his full strength in bed. After running out of the apartment, there were fewer zombies, and the field of vision was wider. Even if a zombie wanted to attack him, Giang Lin could detect it in time and run to a safe location in advance. He glanced at the subway station. The originally bustling night market was deserted, covered in bones, and occasionally zombies appeared and made terrifying roars. Giang Lin bypassed the entrance of the subway station where there were more zombies and went onto the main road. There were fewer zombies here, but there were many accident cars, and many of the cars turned into cages. The zombies inside were so hungry that they banged their heads against the glass, but they still came out. Not coming. This gave Giang Lin some comfort. Zombies can run fast, have great strength, and have keen senses. They are terrifying enemies, but the only good thing is that they are relatively stupid, at least, they can't open doors. Walking along the road, there were only a few zombies. After Giang Lin saw them from a distance, he would shoot with his casual marksmanship. After loading more than a dozen bullets, he would always hit one. When he arrived at the open-air subway track at the next stop, he killed more than a dozen zombies, but he used hundreds of bullets. Fortunately, it is a gun with unlimited bullets. Giang Lin felt happy. After making sure that this road was safe, Giang Lin started to return. When he was approaching the apartment, he saw a few acquaintances on the street. It's Chen Zabo and others. Each of them was carrying a bag on his back and a bag full of food in his hand. Some even threw away their weapons, and they all ran very fast. Behind them, there were nearly 20 zombies chasing them. Zombies are very fast. Although they are not as fast as a pervert like Giang Lin, they are definitely faster than normal people. Moreover, Chen Zabo and others are holding a lot of food, which further delays their speed. "Brother Giang Lin, run!" Chen Zabo also saw Giang Lin and shouted from afar. At this time, they were still nearly 100 meters away from the 4 apartment buildings. But the zombies are only one step away from them. If there is no accident, at least some of them will die at the hands of zombies. Giang Lin had a good impression of Chen Zabo, and he didn't want to see Chen Zabo die at the hands of zombies, so he immediately took out his pistol, pointed it at the zombies behind them, and started shooting. Sure enough, the gun belongs to Giang Lin. Chen Zabo was not surprised at all when he saw Giang Lin taking out a gun. He had guessed that Giang Lin had a gun before, otherwise who would be so bold as to run downstairs alone? The warheads in the convenience store should have been left behind by Giang Lin after shooting. Giang Lin just wanted to help them, and was not willing to risk his life. After firing more than a dozen bullets and slightly stopping the zombies' speed, he pretended that the magazine was empty and retreated with Chen Zabo and others. Even though Giang Lin was at the back, he was the first to enter the apartment building. After others entered the apartment building, Chen Zabo and others quickly closed the door. Then several people pushed the door to prevent zombies from rushing in, while others found something to block the door. After a while, the door was blocked, and Chen Zabo and others breathed a sigh of relief. "Brother Giang Lin, thank you for your help." Chen Zabo came over. He didn't mention what happened before, but said with a wry smile. "You reminded us, but we still went to the convenience store, and then we were blocked by zombies. It took a lot of effort to get out. Then we went to other supermarkets to look for supplies, and we encountered zombies, and one person was killed." Giang Lin looked and saw that the little man he had talked to before was gone. He shrugged nonchalantly. "I have reminded them, but if they don't believe it, what can they do? Brother Chen, why are you being polite to him? Giuong, a short man, walked up with his sleeves rolled up. He must have taken everything from the convenience store. All of us died because of him. Chen Zabo frowned and said, Giuong, shut up, it was brother Jang Lin who saved us just now. Giuong shut up angrily, but still stared at Jang Lin. Since you don't welcome me, let's go our separate ways. Jang Lin didn't care much, since he was going to confront Chen Zabo anyway. Okay, I'll go upstairs first. No matter what, thank you. Chen Zabo waved to Jang Lin, we're on the 12th floor. If you need help, go to us on the 12th floor. Jang Lin waved his hand without looking back and went upstairs through the fire escape. Brother Chen, I was counting bullets just now. Seeing the corridor door closing automatically, Giuong approached Chen Zabo and said, he has no bullets in his gun, we don't have to be afraid of him. Chen Zabo felt a little helpless, he reminded us before, but we don't believe it ourselves. We shouldn't blame him, right? He thought it was Giuong who had a grudge against the short man. But Giuong said, brother, have you forgotten? He took away all the things in the convenience store. If we can get so many things, how long will it last for us? It turned out that what Giuong was worried about was the supplies in Jang Lin's hands. Chen Zabo glared at him and said, I won't do anything ungrateful. Don't mention this matter again. Brother, Giuong looked like he hated iron. Chen Zabo snorted coldly and said to everyone, go upstairs, go back and have a good meal, rest for a day, and then we will look for new supplies. With the experience of dealing with zombies this time, it will be much easier to go out in the future. After saying that, he walked into the corridor first. The others followed closely, while Giuong followed at the back with a frustrated expression. When he reached the 12th floor, Chen Zabo suddenly stopped. Brother Jang Lin, why didn't you go up? By the way, let me tell you, I actually live on the 25th floor. If you have anything, you can go to me on the 25th floor. Jang Lin smiled slightly, you are a nice person, we can make friends. The tall man grinned, very happy, walked over and patted Jang Lin on the shoulder, okay, I recognize you as my friend. Jang Lin didn't want to say more, waved his hand and said, I'll go up first, and we'll talk later when we have the chance. After saying that, he turned around and went upstairs. Chen Zabo waved his big hands the size of cattail leaf fans behind him. See you. Brother Jang Lin is quite a good person. From now on, we will all be friends. Chen Zabo turned to Giuong and said, especially you, stop worrying about what others have in their hands. Do you understand? Brother, I understand. Giuong had no expression on his face. Before going home, Jang Lin took out some food from the space ring as usual and packed it in a big bag. Considering that he might have to take the subway track in the future, he took out a few flashlights with batteries from the debris. Then, Jang Lin knocked on the door of number 12. Who? Giuong's voice came from inside the house. After this experience, she was very cautious about opening the door. It's me. Hearing Jang Lin's voice, Giuong opened the door, and just then the two sisters and Qingge and Qingwu came out of the bedroom. Giuong wanted to take the thing from Jang Lin's hand, but Qingwu beat him to it. She took the first thing from Jang Lin's hand and glared at Giuong. It seemed to be a demonstration against her. Giuong couldn't help but feel funny. In her opinion, Qingwu was childish. That's a lot of food. Qingwu put the things on the coffee table and began to take stock. In addition to what my brother-in-law brought back yesterday, there is so much food, it is enough for us to go to the suburban villa. I took a look. Except for a few more zombies near the subway station, there are very few zombies on the road and the risk factor is not high. I think we can set off tomorrow. Jang Lin was a little anxious. He wanted to go to the villa as soon as possible. Settle down there and start attacking the next target. I think it's okay. Giuong also looked anxious to go to the villa. Jang Lin couldn't help but glance at her. This woman has a big secret. However, don't worry, wait until you get there and capture her, you will naturally know her secret, and you can also get another reward from the system. One stone two bird. Although Qingge felt a little anxious about what Jang Lin had decided, he did not raise any objections. And Qingwu was in agreement with her sister, so naturally she would not say anything. Have eaten and drank enough today. Take a good rest and get ready for tomorrow. Jang Lin put his arm around Chingy's shoulders while talking to Chingwu and Ji Yutong. Honey, let's go back and rest too. It was late at night, and the apartment building was completely quiet, but the roars of zombies could be heard from time to time downstairs. Jang Lin lifted the quilt, quietly got up and left the bedroom. And Chingy's face didn't look so tired tonight. It wasn't that Jang Lin was dying, but that in order not to affect her activities tomorrow, Jang Lin only used 30% of his strength. But just like that, after the incident, Chingy didn't want to move a finger on his body. After wiping his body a little, his head hit the pillow and he lost consciousness. It was only around 8 o'clock at this time. If it had been before, no one in this building might be sleeping, but after the apocalypse, life is precarious, and the power is out, and you can't play with mobile phones and computers. Most people are very early in the morning. Rest. Fortunately for people like Jang Lin, although he doesn't have a mobile phone or a computer to play with, he has a girlfriend who he can, cuddle with and sleep with. It would be sad if you were single. For example, the two people next door were already stressed after the apocalypse. They were alone and couldn't sleep. What's even worse was that there were some strange noises coming from the next door. Let alone sleeping, they were completely distracted. It's so messy that I can't even lie down. Jang Lin was moving things at the door, while Ji Yutong and Chingwu came out on the other side. Brother-in-law, do you want to go out? Chingwu put on the suspender nightgown she usually wore. In the dark night, little bits of moonlight poured into the room, shining on her skin and reflecting the dazzling white light. Ji Yutong was still wearing the same clothes as before, a light-colored sweatshirt and trousers that looked very homely. Her long hair hanging down to her collarbone was casually tied into a ponytail. Her face was slightly childish and she looked delicate and soft, like a neighbor's little girl, younger sister. I have something to do when I go out, so you can just rest. Jang Lin replied casually. Then, Chingwu asked worriedly, is there any danger? Xiao Wu, you have to believe Jang Lin. Ji Yutong took over. If you are really worried, I will go with you and your brother-in-law. Chingwu was a little anxious. If I want to go, I will follow my brother-in-law. She was wary of Ji Yutong. Ji Yutong pointed at her. Are you just going out with your brother-in-law? Chingwu looked down. Originally, she stopped wearing this nightgown at home after Jang Lin moved here, but since Jang Lin became her brother-in-law, she wore it again. After all, we are all a family. But this outfit is too thin. It is comfortable to wear when sleeping, but not suitable for going out for action. I'll go back and change clothes now. Chingwu said that she was about to go back. Ji Yutong said, aren't you just delaying your brother-in-law? Jang Lin had been moving things and didn't interrupt. He could tell that Ji Yutong had completely manipulated Chingwu. He could tell that Ji Yutong seemed to have something to say to him. Xiao Wu, you go back and rest, and ask Yutong to come with me. He suddenly interrupted. Okay. Chingwu was a little reluctant, but Jang Lin had already spoken. She could only watch Jang Lin and Ji Yutong's figures disappear into the moonlight, and then close the door unwillingly. Lock it up. What are you doing out with me? Jang Lin led the way from the corridor to the 25th floor, but instead of going out, he went up half a floor and found a random step between the 25th and 26th floors to sit down. Come down. When I first heard from Xiao Wu that you were with Chingay, I thought you were threatening Chingay with food or force. Ji Yutong blew the dust on the steps and sat down next to Jang Lin, but I talked to her during the day and found that you didn't do this. Quote. What do you want to say? Jang Lin asked directly. You are different from other men. Seeing Jang Lin being so direct, Ji Yutong couldn't help but smile bitterly and said, I know that after arriving at the suburban villa, I will be worthless. You will definitely not protect me then, right? She is self-aware. After arriving at the suburban villa, if he couldn't capture her, then Jang Lin would definitely not be able to tolerate outsiders living in his home, even if the villa might be hers. Jang Lin didn't say anything, so he acquiesced. Ji Yutong also became calm. In the end of the world, a shelter cannot withstand the dangers of the human heart. I just want to know what I have to do so that you can protect me. Jang Lin asked. What do you have? Ji Yutong smiled bitterly. I have nothing but myself. Jang Lin spread his hands and said, then it's over. Ji Yutong felt relieved after hearing this. Since the end of the world, she has been insecure. Although she has many secrets, as a weak woman who is very beautiful, she has no ability to protect herself. Originally, she thought Jang Lin could protect herself with her beautiful skin. After all, he only got together with Chingay after the end of the world. It was obvious that there was something wrong with this. She had previously guessed that Jang Lin must have threatened Chingay with food and force. But then when I chatted with Chingay, I found that Chingay was extremely sure that Jang Lin liked her, and Chingay didn't feel that her appearance was a threat at all. This made Giuong feel a little unsure. If Jang Lin was extremely infatuated with Chingay, then his plan of exchanging beauty for protection would never succeed. That's why she came out with Jang Lin to ask him personally. Knowing that Jang Lin did have thoughts about her, instead of feeling disgusted, she felt relieved. Giuong didn't have any bad feelings towards Jang Lin, but rather had a good impression of her. After all, Jang Lin saved her, and Jang Lin was strong, ruthless, and had a gun in his hand, which was enough to protect her. I have to say that there is a big contrast between Giuong's thoughts and her appearance. She looks like a frail little girl on the outside, but her thinking is very calm and rational, like an old man who has experienced hardships. Then it's settled. Giuong stretched out a small hand to Jang Lin. When you get there, you protect me, and I belong to you. Jang Lin didn't expect that this woman was so easy to capture. To be precise, she even captured herself. After shaking hands with her, Jang Lin reminded, I don't like forcing others. You have to be willing to be with me. If I find that you are not willing, then I won't care about you. You are such an eccentric person. Not only is it yours, but you still want my heart. Giuong smiled nonchalantly. Don't worry, I really admire you. Although there is also Chingay who makes me feel a little grudge, but I can't accept it at all. After all, it's the end of the world. The two finally reached a deal. Jang Lin was looking forward to it. After settling down there, I can get rewards from the system again, and Giuong is also a great beauty. What a double happiness. Jang Lin did not let go of the handshake this time and regarded it as collecting some interest in advance. Giuong's little hands were white and tender, as if they were boneless, and felt comfortable in her hands. And she didn't resist at all, and even rested her head on Jang Lin's shoulder cooperatively. She didn't ask a word about what Jang Lin was doing out at night. The two of them sat on the cold steps, waiting quietly in the silent night. I don't know how long it took, but suddenly, footsteps sounded in the empty corridor. Jang Lin opened his eyes, let go of Giuong's hand, and patted her shoulder. Here we come, please be careful later. If there are too many people, I may not be able to take care of you. When he went upstairs during the day, Jang Lin actually did not go upstairs directly, but hid behind the fire door and listened for a while. He heard clearly what Giuong and Chen Zabo said. How could a cautious person like Jang Lin not take precautions when seeing Giuong being so hostile to him? How could he casually reveal the floor he lived on? Of course, the floor he mentioned was also false. Tomorrow I will set off for the suburban villa. Before entering the subway track, I need to pass through the apartment area, pass the subway station, and walk a long way. With 3 women and most supplies, how could Jang Lin leave a hidden danger? Therefore, he deliberately told Chen Zabo a false address. If that Giuong really wanted to do something, then tonight would be his death. The footsteps were getting closer and closer, and there were 2 people talking quietly. The person named Chen is too pedantic. This was Giuong's voice. That Jang Lin is alone, and his gun may be out of bullets. I wonder what he is afraid of. Brother Wang, is he really out of bullets? Another person's voice was filled with fear. If he still has bullets, we will be doomed. Are you stupid? Giuong said angrily. We definitely can't fight head-on with the man named Jang. This time, we will find out his details first. When he goes out during the day, we will find a way to pry open the door. Don't the supplies belong to me anymore? What should I do if I meet him? The other person was still a little scared. Giuong said. So I said Chen was pedantic and killed Jang Lin during the day. How could there be so many things? But he's not dead. Why are we so unlucky? We just happened to run into him. Giuong said. Besides, after we get the supplies, we will change places to live immediately. The person named Giuong will definitely find trouble with the person named Chen, but then what does it have to do with us? I will listen to you. Another person was convinced. Xiao Wang suddenly lowered his voice. Stop talking, the next floor is the 25th floor. Jang Lin's hearing was much sharper than before. Although the voices of Xiao Wang and his companions were very quiet, he could hear them clearly. Although Giuong could hear the voices, she couldn't clearly hear what they were saying. She was very nervous and held her breath to prevent herself from making any sound. There was a squeaking sound. Xiao Wang and his companions pushed open the fire escape door. They went door to door on the 25th floor, leaning against the cracks of doors to listen to sounds or checking for traces on the ground. Brother Wang, I can't tell which one this is. The companion on the side worked hard on the 25th floor for a long time, but still found nothing. Xiao Wang was very patient. Don't be impatient, look for it slowly, think about it, if we can get that batch of supplies, how long will it be enough for us to survive? At that time, we will watch Chen and his people upstairs. Fighting for life downstairs, watching Jang Lin go downstairs to collect supplies again angrily. Quote, I understand, Brother Wang. The two of them have been busy on the 25th floor for a long time. Not to mention, they have determined which houses still have people alive, but they are not yet sure where Jang Lin lives. The two of them were also tired, so they came to the end of the corridor and smoked against the window. The night breeze was very refreshing, and the two of them thought about the bright future after getting the supplies. But suddenly there was a sound of footsteps, making the two of them instantly alert. Who? The person you were looking for. Jang Lin held a flashlight and shined it on the two people opposite. He held a gun in his other hand and walked towards them. Jang Lin. Xiao Wang was immediately frightened to death. His companion's legs also softened and he almost fell down. Who wouldn't be afraid of being pointed at a gun? Be honest and don't move. Jang Lin threatened as he walked. Behind him, Giuong followed closely, her eyes fixed on the two of them. If it comes to fighting, she can't help, so she can only do small things like this. At the very least, Jang Lin doesn't have to worry about being attacked. You heard everything. Xiao Wang couldn't help but take a step back and pressed his body against the windowsill. Haha. You must have heard it. Tell me, what do you want to do? He still had some courage, but his companion was not so brave. He knelt on the ground, raised his hands, and cried for mercy. Jang Lin ignored him and slowly approached. That's it. As he said that, he pushed Xiao Wang hard, and his short and sturdy body seemed to have no weight in Jang Lin's hands, and he rolled directly out of the window. Ah, ah, ah. A frightened cry pierced the night, waking up many people who were resting. In the apocalypse, everyone was nervous. I wonder if anyone would be scared out of mental illness. Xiao Wang's companions were so frightened that they couldn't even beg for mercy now. Jang Lin directly grabbed him by the collar and threw him down. There was another scream, and the sound of heavy objects falling to the ground could be vaguely heard. Many people opened their windows to check the situation of Xiaomian, but they quickly closed the windows again. At this late night, except for the moonlight, there was no light and nothing could be seen. Let's go back. Jang Lin turned around, his expression as usual, held Giuong's little hand, and walked slowly towards the 24th floor. Giuong didn't speak for a long time. Although he saw Jang Lin kill someone last time, and it was even bloodier than this time, the shock to him this time was greater than last time. She already roughly understood the reason for this matter, and she felt a little scared about Jang Lin's fishing law enforcement and cruelty. But it feels a bit reassuring inexplicably. Fortunately, I'm yours. Giuong didn't speak until he was approaching number 12 on the 24th floor. In this way, your caution and ruthlessness are used to protect me. To be precise, you are not mine yet. Jang Lin reminded me. I know, but sooner or later. Giuong's voice was soft. If you really want it, go and let Chingge and her sister sleep. I'll give it to you tonight. Jang Lin said nothing. He could tell that if he really asked Giuong to accompany him at this time, she would definitely not refuse, but she probably wasn't willing in her heart. It's safe over there in the suburban villa. When the time comes, you can do whatever you want. Giuong seemed to be afraid that Jang Lin would be unhappy, so she hurriedly said, besides, you also need some time to deal with Chingge, right? Do you think of me as a lustful ghost? Jang Lin said angrily. I said, I want you to follow me willingly, instead of just putting you to sleep. For some reason, Giuong felt a little moved when he heard this. I'm so mean, she couldn't help but cursed herself in her heart. While talking, the two of them arrived at the door. Jang Lin knocked on the door and announced his identity as usual. And Qingwu opened the door. She first looked Jang Lin up and down, not knowing whether she wanted to see if Jang Lin was injured or alive, and to see if there were any traces of intimacy with Giuong on Jang Lin's body. You girl, what are you thinking about? Jang Lin scratched and Qingwu's little nose angrily. We are going out for a while, what do you doubt? Are you doubting my ability? And Qingwu's movements were too obvious, and the word doubt seemed to be written on her face. Everyone could tell what she meant. She took a step back shyly. Brother-in-law, what did you say? What a capacity for doubt. For a moment, and Qingwu thought of the voice of her sister next door, and her fair little face turned red with embarrassment, but it was just too dark in the room so no one could see her. Giuong on the side laughed twice, but said nothing. Go back and rest, we have to walk a lot tomorrow. Jang Lin patted and Qingwu on the shoulder. I got it, and Qingwu was teased by Jang Lin and no longer doubted it, and returned to the room honestly. Giuong deliberately slowed down a few steps. After and Qingwu arrived in the room, she stood on tiptoe, leaned into Jang Lin's ear and said, Brother Lin, you are so beautiful, sisters. As she said that, she winked at Jang Lin for a while. Jang Lin felt very strange, as if inside the body of the petite woman in front of him was an old man who had been around for many years. If it were an ordinary woman, would she be able to say such a thing? After Giuong finished speaking, she ran away, avoiding the slap that was intended to hit her butt. Late at night, Jang Lin also returned to the room to rest, and Qingge stared in the dark night. When she heard the door being opened, she said, I just heard those two screams, and my heart was lifted. She sat up and helped Jang Lin take off his clothes. Jang Lin hugged her and lay down, kissing her cheek gently. Don't worry, I will only make others scream. Although they have only been together for a few days, and Qingge has already accepted the change in identity. Once, in Jang Lin's eyes, she was a crazy workaholic and a strong woman, as if she had nothing else to do except making money and working. She was also relatively indifferent to colleagues and others, and basically rarely communicated with her. And after becoming Jang Lin's woman, her beautiful ice cube began to melt slowly and turned into gentle water. Of course, her tenderness is limited to Jang Lin and her sister. For Giuong, she is still the same as before. When something happens, she can exchange a few words. If nothing happens, she can go a whole day without talking to Giuong. Holding in Qingge's smooth shoulders, Jang Lin was thinking about things in his mind. His consciousness gradually blurred, until at a certain moment, he tilted his head and fell into the warm and soft comfortable air bag, falling into a deep sleep. Early next morning, and Qingge rarely woke up earlier than Jang Lin. Seeing that Jang Lin was still sleeping, she did not disturb him, but quietly went out and took Giuong and Qingwu to pack their things. In addition to some food, the only thing you need to bring is a change of clothes. Basically, you can carry a bag alone. I originally wanted to bring a drone with me, but the drone was almost out of power and couldn't fly for long. Moreover, Giuong said there was one at the villa, so I didn't bring this bulky drone. After the three women had finished cleaning up, Jang Lin also woke up. Set off. Jang Lin gave an order, and the four of them left the apartment carrying all their belongings. 12th floor. Chen Zabo stood by the window, looking at the group of figures downstairs, silently. When he heard the screams in the middle of the night, he could roughly guess what happened. It was too dark at night, so he didn't dare to go out, but when it got light, he immediately went down to check the situation. Sure enough, it was the bodies of Giuong and a companion in the team. The corpses were already in terrible shape. In the middle of the night, a group of zombies had eaten them until only a few pieces of broken meat were left on the skeleton. He was still able to identify the two of them by relying on their tattered clothes. There is no doubt that Giuong and his companions went to trouble Jang Lin in the middle of the night, and were solved by Jang Lin. Chen Zabo remembered what Jang Lin said yesterday. Actually, I live on the 25th floor. If you need anything, go to me on the 25th floor. Yesterday, Chen Zabo had no suspicion. He thought that when he went downstairs again, he would go to the 25th floor to find Jang Lin and act together so that everyone would be safer. But now, I'll be an idiot if I believe you again. Chen Zabo cursed angrily. However, his eyes kept staring at the figures of Jang Lin and others. It was not until he saw them walking on the road without stopping that he realized that he might not be able to hear Jang Lin speak in the future. Where are you going? Chen Zabo had to admit that Jang Lin was more suitable for this apocalypse than himself. He was too soft-hearted. Maybe, yesterday, he was tougher, so Giuong and his companions did not dare to go upstairs at all. He believed that Jang Lin was definitely better than him, both in terms of skill and brains. Since Jang Lin chose to leave the apartment, there must be a reason. He can't figure it out now, but that doesn't mean he can't make a decision. He withdrew his gaze until he saw Jang Lin and his group stopped by the river, seemingly trying to climb onto the subway track. Brothers, Giuong and Zhang both accidentally fell to their deaths. We need to recruit some new people into the team. Chen Zabo called the only 2 people left in the team to his side and said, "You go door to door, knock on the door, give out some food first, and then invite them to join the team. We need to expand the team and increase food reserves. After that, I have new arrangements." Chen Zabo knew that he was not a smart person, but it didn't matter, so he just followed the smart people. He planned to reorganize his team, and after getting a certain amount of food reserves, he would climb onto the subway track and follow Jang Lin's footsteps. "Jang Lin, it's so high, how can we get up there?" Giuong looked at the 2-meter-high track exterior wall and said a little aggrievedly, "Can you consider me? I'm only 1.6 meters tall." She is indeed not tall. But this does not affect her beauty. Petite beauties are also loved by people. However, if it is too low, climbing over the wall will indeed be a problem for her at this time. At this time, there is a river next to the road, and the subway crosses the river. This section of the subway is open air. After crossing the river, the subway re-enters the underground. The junction of this section is the place where the wall is the shortest. Jang Lin chose to climb onto the subway track from here. "You are indeed a bit short." Jang Lin looked her up and down and said with a smile, "But, isn't it me?" The wall was more than 2 meters high, and there was a sharp protective net on it. If his physical strength hadn't tripled, Jang Lin wouldn't have guaranteed that he could climb up. He first took out a rope from his backpack. There were several hooks tied to one end of the rope. He swung the rope around a few times, threw the hooks onto the protective net, and dragged it hard. After a while, the protective net was removed. Pulled off. "Chingay, you come first." Jang Lin stood under the wall and waved to Chingay. After Chingay came over, he picked up Chingay and slowly carried him up. After Chingay climbed up, he directly held the soles of her feet with both hands and pushed her up. "Idiot." Giuong was stunned. She looked at Chingwu, who was standing aside. "Xiao Wu, your brother-in-law is not only fierce in bed." Giuong was looking forward to his happy life in the future. But Chingwu was not as shameless as she was. Her little face was bright red and she turned her head away, ignoring Giuong. "Xiao Wu, you are next." After Jang Lin sent Chingay up, he waved to Chingwu. Compared with Chingay, Chingwu is lighter and has a thin figure. She is not as generous as Chingay for future children, but her legs are long and straight. Jang Lin picked her up and threw her gently. Logically speaking, she should be holding on to the wall. Jang Lin used a little more force and she went up. But Chingwu didn't know what she was thinking and didn't react at all. Fortunately, Jang Lin reacted quickly and caught her again. Otherwise, her small frame might not be able to withstand the fall. "What are you thinking?" Jang Lin held the boneless Chingwu in his arms and was speechless. The little person in his arms was exuding scorching heat. He was soft in his arms and very comfortable. However, what time is it now? There are still people on the road. There are zombies, so time can't be wasted like this. I'm fine, brother-in-law, come again." And Chingwu came back to her senses, confused and completely without thoughts, she instinctively replied. She was just completely confused. The moment Jang Lin hugged her, Chingwu felt an inexplicable throbbing suddenly appear. For a moment, her heartbeat accelerated, her whole body felt hot, and her brain became a mess, and she forgot all about what she should do. "This is too social," and Chingwu burst into tears in her heart. Be careful this time and don't make any mistakes again. Jang Lin was a little harsh. And Qingwu cheered up this time. Even though she still felt her heart beating wildly, her reason had returned and she knew what she should do. Repeating his old trick, Jang Lin sent Qingwu onto the track just like before. Finally, there is Giuong. Bring it on. Jang Lin opened his arms to her. When she saw this, she threw herself into Jang Lin's arms without any hesitation. She was slightly heavier than Qingwu, but to Jang Lin, this weight was nothing, and he easily launched her onto the track. Please pay attention, my brother-in-law has a girlfriend. Qingwu waited for Giuong to come up, and then warned Giuong. She felt that Giuong was too proactive just now, and she herself was not like this. Hee. Giuong smiled slightly and said without sincerity, I know. Finally, there is Jang Lin. He just took a few steps back, then took a running start. When he approached the wall, he jumped hard, grabbed the top of the wall with both hands, and rolled over directly. After getting on the track, Jang Lin and others walked towards the terminal with flashlights on. As expected by Jang Lin, there was not a single zombie in the orbit. After all, the subway station is protected by guardrails, and the short section of track outside is either on an elevated track or protected by a wall. Zombies cannot get in at all, and no one can enter the track before the end of the world. The four of them just walked along the track, a distance of more than 10 kilometers. If they kept walking, they could arrive before dark. However, neither the family sisters nor Giuong's physical strength supported them to do that. Therefore, Jang Lin could only slow down and walk slowly with them. In this way, they stopped and walked until late at night, and they finally arrived at the terminal. The terminal station, like other subway stations, is full of zombies. Jang Lin had considered this issue before. He thought about it and felt that it was very safe on the track. The zombies in the subway station could be attacked slowly. The problem was not too big, so he finally decided to take the subway track. It was late at night, not suitable for fighting, so Jang Lin took the four women and found a place to sit down on the track, rest for a while, take a nap, and wait until dawn before going to deal with the zombies. After whispering this, Jang Lin stood up, half asleep and half awake until dawn, climbed over the guardrail and arrived at the subway station. Hiss, roar, the zombies seemed to have not eaten for a long time. When they suddenly saw a living person, they all became excited, and Sayazi rushed towards Jang Lin. Of course Jang Lin didn't sit back and wait for death. He had already planned it and jumped directly onto the security inspection machine. Standing on a high place, he took out his pistol and started shooting at the zombies below. The security inspection equipment is not very high, and the zombies can still reach it with their hands, but Jang Lin is not a vegetarian. Although it is summer, he still changed into a pair of thick leather boots for winter, and the trousers are also specially selected thick trousers with trouser legs. Tucked into boots, the protection is very tight. He would shoot the zombies in the distance with his gun, and attack the ones nearby with his feet. Whenever a zombie approached, he would kick them away, and then use his gun to hit them. The sound of gunfire attracted more zombies, and Jang Lin stood on a high place, slowly cleaning up the zombies in the subway station. Not far away, in the subway duty room around the corner, a group of people were lying on the glass window looking out, but their direction was not towards Jang Lin, so they couldn't see anything. The gunshot means the rescue team is coming. It must be the authorities coming to save us. A middle-aged woman with unkempt hair couldn't help but shed tears of excitement. Finally saved. A little girl with freckles on her face also shed tears. Oh my God, if no one comes, we will starve to death. Everyone, please don't make trouble for the rescue team. We are here, waiting for the rescue team to clean up the zombies before going out. A young man stood up, but he remained calm. A young man named Niulei was a duty officer at a subway station. After the apocalypse, they were very lucky. None of the people in the duty room turned into zombies. They hid in the duty room and escaped. During this period, Niulei took the risk and went to the store in front of the subway station to get back a batch of food, which kept everyone alive until now. However, he could not guarantee that he would come back alive if he went out again. Therefore, Niulei was also very excited about the arrival of the rescue team. He listened to the gunshots outside and felt relieved for a while. As the roars of the zombies became less and less, the faces of the people in the duty room finally showed relaxed expressions. After a while, the gunfire also became less frequent. They could hear footsteps, near and far away, and occasionally gunfire. This must be the rescue team cleaning up the scattered zombies. Finally, the roar of the zombies stopped, and the gunfire stopped completely. People in the duty room cheered. Niu Lei opened the door and led everyone to look for the rescue team, but after turning around, he only saw zombie corpses on the ground. There is no rescue team at all. Did the rescue team not find us and think that there are no living people here and have already left? He muttered, then turned a corner, only to see a man standing by the track, kicked over the guardrail, and then walked out of the track. A few women came up. Suddenly, a very ridiculous idea came to Niu Lei's mind. Could it be that these zombies were all cleaned up by this man? How is it possible? Niu Lei's reason told him that no one could do it. There were so many zombies in the subway station that he couldn't even count them. How could one person kill them all? But the problem is that in the subway station now, apart from the survivors like them, Giang Lin is really the only one. Ah, and there are 3 women who just crawled out of the orbit. Brother Niu, what are you looking at? Have you found anyone from the rescue team? The freckled girl ran over, feeling very happy. The zombies are really all dead, we are safe. Niu Lei pointed at Giang Lin. In the subway station, besides us, he is the only one. Where did he come from? The freckled girl was stunned for a moment, then suddenly looked at Niu Lei. Brother Niu, you mean, he cleaned up the zombies? Niu Lei murmured. I don't believe it either, but there is really no one else in the subway station. Others also rushed over at this time. Niu Lei told them his guess. Everyone is in disbelief, until Giang Lin also saw them, came over with a few women, and asked, are you survivors in the subway station? Yes, we are employees of the subway station. We have been trapped in the duty room for several days. Niu Lei replied, then hesitated and asked, who? Did you clean up all the zombies in the subway station? Well, I'm going to go through here and clean up by the way, so you don't have to be trapped here. Giang Lin nodded and said lightly. Really, although he had already made a guess before, Niu Lei was still shocked when he received Giang Lin's answer. He really couldn't imagine how one person could clean up so many zombies. He saw that Giang Lin only had a pistol. Ask yourself, he will never be able to do this with a pistol. Thank God. The unkempt middle-aged woman was relieved and sat on the ground and cried, we are finally saved. There are zombies outside, don't take it lightly. Giang Lin told Niu Lei and others, and then walked out of the subway station with the sisters and Giuong. Niu Lei was suddenly confused. When he was trapped in the duty room, he just wanted to go out, but when he came out, he didn't know where to go. Although they have been hiding in the duty room these days, they were still able to get news from the outside world when the internet first became available. The whole world is occupied by zombies. Where can I go? Hey, brother, can we follow you? Niu Lei stopped Giang Lin and asked. Giang Lin said without looking back, no. A kind reminder, Giang Lin can already help them the most, and he doesn't want to bring a few more oil bottles. Outside the subway station is a crossroads, surrounded by tall residential buildings, which can be considered a densely populated place. There are a lot of zombies on the main road, but the space is too large, so there are not many, and in the open terrain, Giang Lin's physical fitness is not afraid of zombies at all. Even with Chingge and the others, Giang Lin could detect the zombies in advance and use a pistol to deal with them without giving the zombies a chance to get close. At the same time, follow the map and walk towards the suburban villa. The further you go, the more desolate and sparsely populated you are. There are fewer and fewer zombies, and it becomes safer and safer. Even later, Giang Lin simply found a few shared bicycles on the side of the road, smashed the locks, and a few people rode the bicycles, and the speed immediately increased. After riding for more than 2 hours, except for Giang Lin, the sisters and Giuong had reached their limit. At this time, they finally reached the foot of a mountain. I'm going, we're finally here. Giuong stopped the bike and kicked the bike aside. That's the bad thing about shared bikes. My butt hurts after riding for a long time. In fact, Chingge and Qingwu also had pain in their buttocks, and their legs were as heavy as lead. But Chingge has a tough character. She has been working since she was very young to support herself and her sister. This hardship is nothing to her. And in Qingwu, she was a little squeamish before, but with the advent of the end of the world, she can overcome any problems she has. As for Jang Lin, his butt hurts a little, but he's not very tired. Did you see that there? Giuong stood up and pointed to a small road. It takes about 3 to 5 minutes to walk from that small road to the villa area. Can a villa built in such a remote place really be sold? And Chingay, as a professional salesperson, asked professionally. When this villa was built, we never considered selling it to ordinary people. Giuong smiled. Besides, the land here is cheap. Stop talking nonsense and come over quickly. Jang Lin urged. You must be tired after walking for so long. Come early and have a rest. Follow me. Giuong took the lead and entered the path. He said as he walked, for a while, no matter what happens, you don't want to talk. I will handle it all, okay? Why should I listen to you? And Qingwu was a little angry. I knew that what you said before was all false. You are definitely not a real estate agent, and the villa is definitely not your client's house. Xiao Wu, don't talk. And Qingay patted his sister on the back and looked at Jang Lin. They are not stupid. As they spend more time with Giuong, there will be more loopholes in what Giuong says. That is to say, Jang Lin believed in her, otherwise, the sisters would not have come to such a desolate place with her. Listen to Yutong. Jang Lin also touched in Qingwu's hair and said with a smile, although Yutong has a secret she is hiding from us, she will not harm us. When she gets there, she will tell us the secret. I didn't mean to hide it from you. Giuong explained. It's just that the facts are too bizarre. You wouldn't believe me if I told you. And I only remembered some things slowly. The 4 people walked and talked. After a few minutes, after turning a corner, everyone's eyes suddenly opened up. A newly built villa area with high walls came into view. City of Hope. Jang Lin saw a huge brass plaque hanging on the gate of the villa area and gently read the words on it. Yes, this is the City of Hope in the apocalypse. Giuong also looked at the plaque, with an indescribable complex meaning in his tone. Several people were still looking at this villa area, which was actually a small city called Hope City. Within the Iron Gate, several people in security uniforms came out and looked at Jang Lin and others with vigilant eyes. Jang Lin suddenly became alert, and his hand had already touched the pistol on his waist. Giuong walked over and patted Jang Lin on the shoulder, giving him a reassuring look. Then he took a step forward, walked to the gate of Hope City, and said to the security guards. The name is Giuong, the owner of No. 16 Hope City. You can check. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.